Here.
Here, everyone please rise for a pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Thank you. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Okay, motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Do I have a motion to acknowledge the minutes from March 14?
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, motion second. All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Couple of comments, before we open for some public discussion on the agenda items. First is that tomorrow, Tuesday, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we're going to be holding what I consider a very, very important event, memorial event for our Vietnam War veterans. This is what I hope is our first of many, first annual. It's going to be, since the cold weathers, it's going to be held inside, right, Jessica? But we have a very good event, and for those of us that went through the Vietnam War era, I think it's very important for us to recognize the patriotism of people that made so many different sacrifices. So we'll be holding the event here, and I think you'll enjoy it. Did we decide that we're going to have some hot coffee and other things? Okay, so we'll be doing that. So Al, councilmen and women, want to say something? Then I have another comment after that.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure people know it starts at 1 o'clock tomorrow. So if you can get a little bit earlier, that would be great. Again, it's going to be a very good ceremony. We have, I think, 6 or 7 different speakers there with Vietnam experience. We have Kieran Lawler as one of the speakers, but there's several other folks that are going to be doing the speaking there. So I think it's going to be a great event. Kevin Hawthorne is actually running the event for us as a member of the Veterans Committee here. So again, I encourage you to come out if you get an opportunity. It starts at 1. It'll probably be about an hour and a half or so ceremony, and it's a good way to honor our Vietnam veterans. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill?
Unfortunately, I'm unable to attend due to work obligations tomorrow, but as a representative of this town, I greatly appreciate the initiative of our Veterans Advisory Council and Kevin Haythorne putting this together. I have a relative who is still missing in action from that conflict, Major Joseph W. McDonald, and on behalf of my family, I greatly appreciate our town pausing and reflecting on the events that occurred at that time. Thank you.
I think this is a very wonderful thing whenever we honor any veterans. The Vietnam War was an awful time in history for our country, and as we band together, it shows our unity, and we're forever thankful for the people that gave their lives. And even if you can't be here, I'm sure in your heart you hold them all dear, and take a moment tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
As we know, our veterans are the rock and the foundation of our nation. We can do more always to serve them and to honor them, and I think especially that area, we've had this discussion, they need all the honors and accolades they can get.
Thank you. So please, come on out. I believe that we'll also be videotaping it and putting the, film up on our various sites that we broadcast these things on. So, please come out and, enjoy the ceremony. Second thing I'd like to just note is that tonight is the first of what I intend, and the board is fully in support of, is probably a series of public informational meetings with respect to topics of great interest and concern to all of us. And as we've been doing these programs, we do, in our general public portion, open up for comments, and I hope that if anyone has any comments, then they present them and are civil and properly presented, because the board is interested in hearing all opinions. But tonight, we've invited our tax assessor, and Christian Harkins, who works very hard in trying to get parity and equity in his decisions. We will have later in April I think the second board meeting, we will be holding, and we've invited and he's accepted, I've invited Superintendent of Schools Dwight Bonk. He'll be presenting to us, and I also have a standing invitation out waiting to hear from corporate of Central Hudson to come out and speak to us. So those are three events that, speakers that we have lined up. So tonight, again, we'll hear from Christian in the discussion section of the meeting.
Can I say one
Sure,
thing?
please.
I'm not sure if anybody or all of you have been notified. There is a Facebook meeting tomorrow hosted by Central Hudson. Go on Central Hudson website and you can listen, you can participate. It's open to all residents. So it's at 4:30 tomorrow. I'm not sure if they're going to be putting it on the media or whatever, but it's a good opportunity to voice your concerns. I just remembered.
Thank you. Yeah, very good. I forgot about that.
Thank you.
Okay, good. So we'll, move on. Do I have a motion to open the public portion of the meeting?
I make a motion to open the public
Second.
portion.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. So now I invite residents
Excuse me.
and folks that have some interest in the agenda to come up to the podium as we have in the past and speak. Identify yourself and, raise the points that you'd like to address. Try to keep it within 3 to 5 minutes, please. So anybody would like to come up, talk about any item that's on the agenda, you're welcome to come up. Anybody wants to come up, speak?
Nobody?
Okay,
Seeing none, I'd
Make
like
a
to close it.
motion.
okay.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. For our discussion items, our first one, we will have representatives from our Senior Garden Club. Grace and Nancy, we've initiated an activity, try to, at least some beautification efforts. I think you'd be pleased in what we, have planned, they have planned, and so please come on up and identify yourselves. I think most folks here recognize you, but please, welcome.
I hope not everybody recognizes me.
No, here at least. That's your face?
You're on that
That's a little
poster.
scary.
Yeah,
You're on
you
that
didn't see
poster.
that poster. Joey put it on a private page.
Most wanted,
Okay.
no, go ahead.
So I'm Nancy Lo-Cicero. I live at 82 Fieldstone Boulevard, and I'm here as co-chair of the Senior Gardening Club.
And I'm Grace Martin. I live at 52 Fieldstone Loop, and I am also co-chair for the Garden Club, as well as an active member of the Wappinger Senior Association.
As I am too. So we're both on that committee too. So, yeah, the people around here, but hopefully I haven't run into all these people in a bad way or anything, so they would remember me. So we're just here to give you the first go-round of what we wanted to do for the Senior Garden Club. You can go on to the next. So our first project that we highlighted was to take a look at the gazebo out on the far side of the building, on the east side of the building. And basically, the current status is that it's used, the gazebo today is used for official town events, weddings, and for, visitor and senior seating and things like that, of that nature. It's located again on the eastern side of the building. The good thing is that the roof was recently, I think within the last 2 years,
Yes.
redone. The bad things are that it's in a shaded area for for a good portion of the day, even during the summer. And then what happens is that because of that, I think there's a lack of landscaping around the building and stuff like that. And I'm not sure what the electrical status is of the building.
It's in there and running. We're getting
It looks like
charged.
it's there, but,
Yeah.
We saw
There's a
there was
box.
there today, but it was still
We-
saying 0-0.
so we're not sure if it's actually running.
Well,
But-
we got a bill for it last
Oh, that's
month,
great.
so
Well, it shouldn't have been
Steve,
big
check.
because it still says
Okay.
000.
Steve
So
will check.
maybe you'll talk to Central Hudson when they, that would be a good thing to ask.
There you go.
So anyway, that's identified as our first priority project. we can go to the next slide. So what we decided to do is, part of our plan was to position 2 poly-resin freestanding planters on either side that will allow for a climbing area. Each planter is about 43 inches long by 39 and a half inches and about 16 and a half inches deep. And so what that will do, what we want to do as part of that, what we were hoping we could get some help from the gentleman in the town, is to maybe remove some of the underlying soil, level the ground on either side of the opening, and then we can evaluate. We'll use their expertise to tell us if we need to put in any other, what we have to do for drainage, or what we have to do for leveling. They're much better at that than I am, and so I'll go with their expertise. And then what we had planned to do is put down 16 by 16 pavers underneath the boxes, but again, we'll defer to the town expertise. If they feel that they can put in gravel or something else that will keep those boxes level, well, then we'll defer to them. And then what we'll do is we'll assemble and install those boxes. We also want to install 4 plant hangers around the front of the gazebo, and so that we can have some hanging plants on those areas. And so we're gonna use initially some shade-friendly plantings so that we can get the biggest bang for the buck. We can probably get some plants that will do with limited sun, but when you're right up against that gazebo, it's gonna be pretty much shaded. The next foil just has, or the next slide, just has sort of where we envision putting those planters. The gazebo it has those 8 sides, so the 2 planters on either side will be on either side of the opening, and then where you see the stars, that's where we're thinking about
Plant
putting the
hangers.
hanging plants, okay?
And as I discussed with Nancy and Grace today, and had previously discussed with Steve Frazier, is that we will also be digging out about 3 foot wide or perhaps wider along the whole path, planting, plants there, probably roses and
Yeah.
perhaps peonies, and then putting in new material, which will all be paid for by the Ladies Association at the Mid-Hudson Islamic Association. So,
And I think that
and that will be
roses-
coordinated with
yeah,
them
we can,
as well.
We're more than happy, we'd be happy to work with them. I have a feeling that plants that need more sun, like roses or something, will grow nicely there because it's not set back as far.
Right.
And I think that will be a nice mix
You-
down
you-
the pathway.
You would
Yeah.
get free plants probably, and also free information from Cornell. If you go on their website, and
Yep,
they will recommend to you the local species that
Yep.
would work very well
and
here.
stuff that's not invasive or anything. That's
Exactly.
one of the other reasons why that
Exactly.
we wanted to use planters. One is because a planter will allow the seniors to participate a little bit more. In that vein, the next thing that we wanted to work on is on the most eastern side part of the other access, the furthest down door, and the entranceway by the senior. That's what the seniors use. So right now, well, actually, they did something. On the left and the right, the left side had,
Thanks for the compliment.
is where the, is where.
We had Steve actually move the
Somebody
picnic
was in there
bench.
doing something. Was where the picnic table was, and on the right-hand side is where there's a food box there. Problem with the current status, well, where the picnic table was is pretty muddy, and the picnic table was sort of in the way. Nobody was really using it. And on the right-hand side, that's where that food dry storage box is.
Right.
But the bad part is that it's in the direct sun for most of the day, especially during the summer. So that's nice if you want a can of hot soup, but it's probably not good if you're for anything else. So,
You're using solar power.
yeah, yes, you are. Very, very well. We're actually right there. So what we wanted to do is, if we can go to the next slide. What we were thinking about, our plan is to have raised bed planters on either side. We place these planters, which are actually we did purchase these green ones to add a little pop of color. So they're like 45 inches wide, 31.5 inches high, and 22 inches deep. So they'll be nice-sized planters. What we were going to, two on one side, on the left side, one on the right side. But in order to do that, we needed a couple of things. One was relocation of the picnic table, which
already
seems
done.
to, yeah.
Steve took
Thank you
care
very
of.
much. And it looks a lot taller now, too, because it's not in the mud anymore.
He just has to sand it,
It was
so we
sunk in
don't.
it was sunk in a little bit, but, so it looks a lot taller now, so that's already been done.
Give it
We
till
also
Thursday
wanted
when it
to
rains again.
relocate the food box. If you put it on the outcrop, on the front side of the outcrop of the building on that east side, it will be in the shade. And it'll be in the shade for most of the time. And I think that that's probably a better way. And there is a small walkway there, so if people want to use that, they won't be walking on the grass. There is a little walkway there too. So there'll be, I think that that would be a better place for that box, but we'll need some help in moving that box. And permission to move it, as long as it's okay. I'm not sure who determined where that box was supposed to be placed, but if
I think the
somebody can-
organizers did, right, Joey, originally?
If
So
somebody
we'll
can
just get
tell
their
us and
permission.
it's not a
Yeah,
problem,
I don't think
then-
it should be, but.
You know, as long as it's not a problem, I just
We'll
want
reach
to make
out to
sure,
them.
so, okay. And then we need to just have, go to the expertise here to evaluate the ground for leveling or anything like that. Our plan is to install pavers onto that groundwork so that the boxes will be on a level base. And then we'll also talk to folks here to let us know if they think, once those planters are filled, if they still need to be anchored to the building or anything like that.
Yeah, for the
So-
wind.
Right. I mean, they'll be heavy, but,
You
you
never
know,
know.
we don't know, and so,
Yeah.
and I don't know if there's what the rules are. There might be some rules that we need to have that anchored, so we'd like to have that. And then we'll just, we'll put in some sun-friendly plantings in those boxes. And those boxes will be very available to the seniors who have expressed an interest. Some of them are a little on the senior side. So if we can just get them interested enough to help us do the initial planting. And a couple of them, I mean, 80, well, how old is she? It was,
Well, Ms. Fran's
95.
95, and she's showing interest at.
oh, well, can I come in and water, I can do that, you know, so that's the best place. That's
Well,
one of
that's
the reasons
good.
why we put that there,
Yes,
you know?
That's very good.
And then we'll do some seeding if as necessary. So those are the first two projects that we have.
So when do you want to try to have this done by? Is it by Earth Day? When do you want to have it done by?
Can I answer that
Sure,
in a second?
absolutely.
As you see, our goal is to get a few more seniors interested. Right now, we have about 8 to 10.
8 to 10.
That are interested in helping, which isn't bad, which isn't, actually, it's a very good start if you look at the dynamics of what's in the senior center. And our goal was also to make them very senior user-friendly. Limit Mr. Frazier's time, because we didn't really want to put a lot of shovels in the ground. As we walked around this site with most of this board, there's lots of places
Oh,
to
yeah.
fix. So we figured the goal was the gazebo first, because it's highly used by all organizations, and then, of course, right behind it, the entranceway into the senior center. To answer your question, we would like to, the goal is to get this started right around Earth Day.
Okay.
We would have liked to start sooner, but like it's 20 degrees today, and we need
It
a few
snowed.
things, we need a few things done, okay? We have most of the supplies in already.
Okay.
So our goal is like that Earth Day weekend event. I think Earth Day happens to be a Friday, so we're looking to get the kickoff on Saturday. with a lot of people, but some of the work we would appreciate being done a little ahead of time. I don't want to go there that day and we have to then find out we're ready to roll and then it hasn't been graded by the gazebo. Because we've only picked these 2 projects. I'm not going to get supplies for what we believe is going to be our 3rd and 4th project.
Yeah.
So that's the goal, is to get these. And if we have a lot of hands that gets a lot of things done quickly, at least that's our plan.
Well, I
Yeah.
think that's good. You're
Yeah.
starting off small, make sure it's successful, and build from that.
Yeah.
That's really good. And I think the seniors in this area bring a wealth of information as far as gardening goes. I mean, I have a neighbor that is in her mature years, and her backyard looks something like the botanical garden. So she would be an asset.
She'd be a real asset, and I could
Very.
use that from my backyard, too.
Exactly. No, I'm very serious, and I think, you know, they have this wealth of knowledge
Yep.
from living in the area.
Yeah, I
And-
actually know a master gardener
Yeah,
who is in Wappinger, so I know of one that's in Wappinger.
it'd be funny if it's the same person, though. No.
Maybe not.
But that would be
So
great.
again,
So to Steve, could you grade in front of the gazebo with item? Would that hold those square planter boxes?
Can we do it? We can do it.
Can
Can
you,
we do it within the time period
Yeah.
that they're asking? I can't say that.
because they're only
And-
4 foot by,
They're only that, but only this and only that.
I know.
And that's part of the thing.
Which one do you want me to put aside while I do this?
Well, the other thing
That's
is,
why I'm asking.
the other thing is that that's why we picked 2 separate projects. Because it's possible you won't have time to work on that right away, but maybe if we can get help moving the box, maybe the entranceway is a place that we can, because that's pretty flat. And I don't anticipate that there's gonna be a lot of work that's necessary there, except actually physically moving the box and stuff. Then we'll start working on there. If he's, I understand that his time is, he's stretched
I
8 million
all the
ways, so,
sports organizations
yeah,
that are on deadlines with their opening days,
yeah.
and it's not leaving a lot of time. for-
And that's why we picked the second one that was separate and a more,
Let me say this, Nancy
Doable
and Grace,
place, I
one way or the other we'll get it. If Steve
Yeah.
can't do it, then we'll find
We'll figure
somebody
out a
else.
way.
I'll pay for it, whatever.
Well, but we
You know, so,
have organizations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
That would-
we'll get it done
I
so you can
mean-
put it up on Earth Day.
our goal was not
Maybe reach out to the
No.
Boy Scouts, and they would probably be very interested in helping.
It's not the.
No, it's the
not
grading and the
it's
digging.
But the
Yeah.
grading did, but as far as building some boxes for
Oh,
you,
They
yeah,
have
we
them.
have that.
They
We're
have
but
them.
on
good
your
with
other
that.
projects going forward, instead of buying them, you
Yep.
get them involved too.
Yep.
That's an avenue you
Well,
can go
again,
down.
some of what you've done, you've helped us an awful lot by giving us a budget. We want to stay within that budget. There's no doubt I can blow the budget in the first.
Of course we
project.
can.
No,
And we don't wanna do that.
In the first project, by going and buying gravel and rock.
Of course.
I can do that, I do that in my own yard, I can do it here. But see, the goal is if we could get, if you can't do it, then put the stuff there, so maybe.
No, we'll get it done, Grace,
No,
don't worry.
I'm sure there's
Don't worry.
organizations that would be more than willing to help beautify the town.
Link it with Earth Day, I think it's a
Sure.
good start.
Yeah.
We have a good plan to get a
Oh,
lot
yeah,
of this
there's
stuff out.
gotta
No,
be
we-
others.
no,
So maybe
I
we could
already
do
have
Earth-
volunteers,
Earth
so.
Day work with that, and that's
Yeah.
easier, that's an easier
Yeah,
fit. maybe.
great.
We would like to have both.
But yeah, we would.
Because again, if we get a lot of people around and there is, if that's our kickoff day and we can't, if we have people standing around and can't get the project done, we've lost the enthusiasm of people wanting to be part of this garden club, which we tried to start last year.
Well,
So,
yeah,
mean, that's
I
the-
agree.
We don't want to
And,
lose that
and-
enthusiasm.
and you may want to reach out to other garden clubs in the area too. I know Beacon has one, I believe there's one in
Fishkill has
Fishkill.
Fishkill has one.
And I think every Mother's Day, they do a sale or something.
Yep,
For-
Verplank does one in
Exactly,
Fishkill.
Verplank, so maybe
Yeah.
get some good ideas from them.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you.
And,
Thank you
and
for your
we'll,
time.
we'll hear
Appreciate
from Joey shortly about Earth Day, not yet. Yeah.
Okay.
But we also have another event planned,
That's
you know,
good.
with respect to the turtle that we're doing, so.
All right,
Yeah, but
great.
reach out
You know,
to
so
them.
that
If you
will
need
make it a
names, let me
nice,
know. I'll get them to
series
you.
of events. So we'll make sure, I I commit to make sure that's
So
done.
the other thing we have too is a lot of volunteers for Earth Day, so maybe Joey and some of the volunteers we get, they can help out Nancy and Grace
some
with their
of that stuff,
project as
too.
well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next time we'll talk about it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
for your
Thanks
time.
for all your
Thank
effort.
you.
Yeah,
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Okay, Christian, the floor is yours. Come on up, please.
I want to be there. I want to be in that beach.
And welcome. Thank you for coming.
Oh, no problem. Okay, so I've done a lot of work on analyzing where we are with the real estate market. The new assessments come out May 1st. That's the assessment date for pretty much the entire state. I've got some slides set up through Joey here. And like I said, I've done I'm trying to analyze where we are in the market. Obviously, the market's doing extremely well. It's been going, since coronavirus started, the market has gone up and really hasn't stopped. And to this day, it hasn't stopped. And people are paying more and more for properties. And it'll show with the, if we get that bigger, Joey. So this, we've seen this chart before, but this is a chart of assessed values for the town starting in 2007. That's when we did our reval for the first time in 20 years. We had 100% of value. After that, obviously, the market took a big crash. You could see the values going down each year. Then they kind of level off a little bit, and then the assessments start going up. That's a reflection of the fact that the market's been doing so much better. 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, and even to this day, the real estate market, every time I get deeds in the office, I can't believe the numbers that I'm seeing. It's almost as if I couldn't assess properties high enough. And I recently had a real estate agent in the office, and she said that she listed a property for sale at a number that she thought was high, and they got about 15 bids, and it sold for $50,000 more than what the high listing price was already. And that's not uncommon, unfortunately, with this market. So, Joey, if you go to the next slide, and hang on a sec. If you notice the, starting around year 2013 or so, where it's flat, and then it starts to go up, that's a common theme with most of these, because that's really reflecting what the market's been doing.
Let me stop you for 1 second. You're saying the market is doing well, and we're looking at a chart that shows 2007. Let's not forget what happened after the market, quote-unquote, did well in 2007. I would argue it was a false, fabricated inflation that resulted in a significant financial challenge for many, including this government. So I know from an assessor standpoint, you look at it as it's good, the market's doing great, but I think many fear that we're going to see the same bubble burst that we saw 2007, 2008, 2009 as a result of what could be argued as inflated value.
Exactly.
So I understand as an assessor, you have to follow specific parameters, but
Right.
use caution when you refer to the market doing well, because I would argue this is just the beginning of what's going to happen in the next 2 years when these values, these overinflated values, right side, and we have upside down homeowners again. Because I think that's a real possibility, and I would argue that, again, I've been through this before. Let's not say we're having a great economy when we're not. This is not a great economy. From your perspective, it may be, but I don't consider this a great economy. This could be the preamble to a major problem in the next 2 years. So just understand that when you say things are doing great.
So the other thing you got to take a look at too is look at the mortgage tax revenue we're getting in, and we're starting to see a decline in that a little bit. So we had a peak, kind of what you're showing here a little bit, but it's starting to come down now. So as you start looking at the assessments, make sure you take that into account too. I understand the state gives you an assessed value you have to use, but you also are allowed to use some judgment. So
Absolutely,
again,
right.
so as you're using judgment, you know, going on what Councilman Beal said, I mean, let's not think everything is so rosy that, again, we're seeing mortgage rate, you know, the amount of money coming in from that, we're seeing that come down. So I just want to make sure you take that into account as well, because I do think we're going to see some level of drop-off over the next couple of years.
I
As
really
inflation
fear
and
that.
everything else
Yeah.
is going up, mortgage is going to be harder to get. So again, we are
Right.
just got to
Well,
make sure we take it into account.
Only thing I can do is analyze the data that I have at the time. So we don't really know what the market's going to do in the future. So from this chart shows when we revaled in 07 and the market went down, I analyzed the market and I reduced assessments accordingly. So, and now the market's going back up, so we're increasing assessments. If the
Right.
market turns around, the assessments will follow.
I just don't want to overinflate the assessments and all
No,
of a sudden
no,
create
we-
a problem we don't need to create.
But I think the concern, at least my concern, I think what the councilmen are saying is that when you artificially, inflate the assessments, it's just like artificially inflating wages. There's a clear correlation to wages and property assessments, which when they're overinflated, and that's, I think, what our concern is, they then trigger the downturn. And then when you have other factors like war and so forth, and then our people, our residents, particularly those that are on very limited disposable income, then suffer the greatest, So we have to be careful, just like I have to be careful in wage negotiations and so forth, not to create that, environment which contributes to a greater collapse than, what could happen. So that's the concern, I think, Christian, that
No,
everybody has.
I agree. No one
Yeah.
knows when the market's going to turn over and go down. It could go up for 3, 4 more years. It could be ending 6 months from now. We don't really know. But like I said, the only thing I can do is we look at the date at a point in time, which is the prior year's July 1st. So July 1st of 2021, this is kind of where we're standing. So, and.
Go ahead, because I know you have a
No,
number
no,
of
no.
good slides.
But I do things as conservatively as
But I think that
possible.
was important.
I just wanted, I
Yes.
apologize
Oh,
for
that's right.
interrupting you, but I
It's
wanted
very
to make sure
important.
that slide was up when I said that. That went back to 2007. Thank you.
So this is another slide, and it's showing the price per square foot in the town of Wappingers, and it starts with, I think, 2012, thank you, and ends all the way up and through 2020. As you can see, the market was relatively stable for 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, but then it started going up. And then you can see for the 2022 roll, all the sales that I would use for that analysis are up again. We're up to almost $210 a square foot on average, where we started in 2012 at about $162 on average.
Well, the other thing you got to consider
So-
too is with COVID, you had a lot of influx from folks from New York City coming up here. So that's also increased the values that people are paying because, houses down there are significantly more expensive. And so that's one of the reasons why I think you're seeing some of these bids come in where it's $50,000 higher than the asking price. So again, just things that, keep into consideration as you look forward at the assessments. Because again, I understand the state gives you an assessed value, but again, you need to make sure you use your judgment as best
Right.
you can.
Well, the unfortunate part about the overbidding is that's almost commonplace now. I would say on 70 to 80% of the sales, they're selling for more than what they're listed for. And there's not just one offer on the property, there's 15 or 20 pushing the sales up. So it's, unfortunately, there really is only one real estate market. You can't say that it's overly inflated or it's a false market or it's influenced by X, Y, or Z. There's one real estate market with all of its current influences. But
Right.
yes,
Do
one
we
big
know if other
influence is
towns
to
are
move up.
experiencing
But
the same kind of growth?
what's that?
Do we know if other towns are experiencing the same kind of growth so that if the assessments go up, say, for example, in our town, other towns are seeing the same kind of
Yes.
increases?
Maybe even more.
And I guess the question is, what kind of things are they doing to make sure that we're not overinflated on what our assessments are going to be? Are they also taking a look at, a trend from a mortgage tax revenue or something else that says, they're starting to come down? We're starting to see a slowdown in, homes being purchased. Are we taking that into account too? Are you talking to other assessors? Because you're
Oh.
the assessor at Fishkill as well, right?
I do Fishkill, yes. and
Yeah,
we talk all the time.
Okay.
My biggest concern is the assessors in the Wappinger Central School District, because that's our biggest school district. So Wappingers and Beacon. So I always want to make sure that one of us is not either going up or down more or less than the other dramatically, because then you'd see a huge shift in taxation. So especially with the school taxes is our biggest bite. So we try to, want to make sure we're all kind of stay in lockstep. So there is some more slides coming up that
Okay.
shows what the state is saying they think the county is doing, and that will show you kind of what's happening with some of the other towns. So this is a chart for the town of Wappingers, doesn't include the village, and it basically takes the assessed value and divided by the selling price. So this one works in the converse. So if you're at the one line, that means your market's relatively stable. So back in 2012, 13, we were slightly above the one line, but as you can see, go up to 2022, we're at 0.777. So we're pretty dramatically below the one line. The one line means that's 100% of value. Below that means that your properties are underassessed. And above that means your properties are overassessed. So if you look at the number for what's been happening over the years, this is the data that I've been taking out of the market, we're going in a direction that means that the market values are increasing as compared
Underassessed.
to the assessed values. So,
So you would say, based on your analysis there, we'd have to increase the assessments by 22% to get back?
well,
to
no, I have a lot of discretion when it comes to
Right.
that. And these are raw numbers. I didn't do any time adjustments to them. And it's the whole town. I break our town up into about 30 different neighborhoods. So some neighborhoods are moving more than others, so it's not across the board.
That's my
So-
point, is how much discretion does he have? Because if
Well, I have
you
a lot
look at
of,
the chart,
I have a lot of
22 or
discretion, but I
20%,
still have to, there's some more slides coming up, and then,
The issue, though, is this. Based on what you're explaining, is your job to assess is based on selling price, correct?
right.
I would argue that that's a false pretense, because selling prices right now, based on supply and demand, are 20 to 30% higher than what they were previously, pre-COVID. So we're going to be adjusting assessments based on a methodology that is
Yeah.
flawed, in my opinion. Because I would argue that these inflated prices that people are paying are unrealistic. That's my position. I understand you have to follow certain parameters, but again, I've been through this before. I sat here, Paoloni was a councilman. We went through this before, and we saw what happened when the bubble burst. And, you can't watch cable news, okay, at all, because the perception is the sky is purple on one channel and the sky is green on the other. And one will be telling you how great the economy is, and the other one will be telling you how bad the economy is. So we have to try to make sense here out of what's going on based on what I believe is our experience, our history, and what we've seen occur previously. And it makes me very nervous to sit here and hear that, hey, based on selling price, my house right now is valued at $250,000 more based on, this crazy market we're in right now, okay? I don't consider that a real number, to be quite honest with you. I really don't, because it's going to go back down to a realistic number once everything gets normalized. I think COVID has really thrown this entire market into an inflated scenario.
Agreed?
And it's supply and demand, really. Here in this town, we have a little bit of flexibility when it comes to taxes because we are fortunate to have a little bit of a cushion in this town. So I'm not really concerned wholeheartedly about our town tax impact on an increased assessment because our town tax rate would go down. I am concerned about the 76% of people's tax bill, which is their school taxes. That's what
I
I'm
agree.
concerned about.
Exactly.
Because even a small fluctuation of assessment that's not properly balanced and right-sided can result in hundreds of dollars in increase per year when folks are receiving Central Hudson bills that are $500. I mean, and that's why I'm a little hypersensitive right now, okay? And I think the other board members are as well.
Exactly.
Don't take it personally. You're an assessor. You have to follow certain
I don't take anything personally.
you have to follow certain parameters, I get it, but just understand that any flexibility or any judgment that you have as an assessor, I'm sure you're going to do your best to take under consideration. We as a town board we cannot have any influence on the assessor. The assessor has to maintain an autonomous authority for obvious reasons. But that said, I'm just trying to provide a little bit of perspective from what I'm hearing in my ward.
Exactly.
Yeah, the one thing, if you could quickly explain, is the process and, how you're mandated to do certain things. Only because, like Bill said, talking to the residents, the biggest concern is our retirees. The Third Ward has a lot of elderly and retirees, and their concern to me was, so it's great, New York State wants me to move,
Right.
because you're jacking up my price of my house so I can sell it and move to Florida. And that seems to be the trend when most people want to stay where they're at. So you can argue whether there's going to be a bubble. I feel there will be because it's just the way things go. So people 2 doors down who buy for $600,000 and I'm great, but I'm not moving. So that doesn't reflect the actual cost of my house. So those are the people that I'm really concerned about. And they've expressed a lot of concern to me about that. So if you could just talk quickly about that.
So, well, I mean, I've been thinking about it, and really one of the best ways that you can protect the seniors is by doing a revow, because then you make sure that everyone has a fair assessment, is paying their fair share. And then when you come to your multiple entities like the Dutchess County or Wappinger Central School District, when they figure out what our tax rate's gonna be, they take, like Dutchess County takes the assessed values for every town in Dutchess County. And if you're not at 100%, they take the equalization rate that's been given to you, and they divide your assessment by the equalization rate, so to equalize out your value. And that equalization rate is usually not favorable. So then you end up with a greater value and a greater tax. So, I mean, I sympathize with seniors, and New York is a land tax state. This is not an inexpensive place to live.
Right.
So, but last year, I have a slide coming up where I took a property and we raised the assessment went up 7%, but their taxes only went up 3.1%. So even though we raised the values, we didn't go after that extra income and raise more money for the town or for the school or for the county. They did a good job of budgeting, and then we came up with I mean, because even before we did the revals in 2007, taxes were still going up every year.
So my concern is, last year, we were able to, as Bill said, we were able to fix the tax rate. So your assessments went up approximately 7%. We came down roughly 6.5%. But from a school perspective, they didn't come down the full 7%.
No, they did not.
They came down 3 or 4%. So guess what? If we have a 22 or 23% increase, we can decrease our tax rate. But what we can't do is affect what the
Right.
schools do. And that, I mean, that's significant, especially somebody who's on a fixed income. So again, we need to make sure that all the towns are doing the exact same thing, looking at if they're going to evaluate it, say 90 or 95% versus 100%. All towns are doing it so that we're not penalized too.
Right.
Right, and what he's saying, for those that didn't follow exactly, is within the school district itself, there are a number of towns, right? So if this isn't done, as the assessor said, if this isn't done properly, there can be a shift of balance whereby the tax liability is increased on town of Wappinger residents
Right.
within the school district. So that's why it's so important that whatever is done, and of course, I don't want anything to be done, but whatever is done needs to be done in a fashion that is well thought out and balanced, because we have a large portion of the Wappinger Central
Right.
School District
Exactly.
in our town. That balance needs to be proper.
Right,
We
and that's,
also have a large community of seniors that have to be protected. Nobody's getting any younger. And that's important, and they
Right.
want to stay here. And they're finding it very difficult to do that.
well, there are.
I mean, they've put their kids through school already. I mean, it's very difficult for them. And that's things that need to be taken into
Right.
consideration.
Well, some of that stuff is higher than what I can control. So, New York State, everyone pays school taxes, whether you have kids in the district or not.
And that's why
So-
everybody's leaving New York, too.
so-
That's
well,
one
it
of
could
the main
be.
reasons.
So,
But I don't want to
but
debate
there are,
that.
there are
That's not what
there are
we're here.
exemptions for seniors. There's an Enhanced Star exemption, which could save you $1,600 off your school tax bill. If you're a very low-income senior, we have a very low-income senior exemption, which could save, some people 50% of their tax bill. So there are exemptions out there for our very low-income seniors. So, but not all of our seniors are low income.
Exactly.
So that's kind of the issue. Like we have the Regency at Wappingers, that's geared towards seniors, but those are also $500,000-$600,000 condos. So it's not, so those are seniors that would be on the higher end of the income scale, that can in theory afford their taxes. So, but the state doesn't give me a lot of leadway on saying, well, you're a senior, so I'm not going to raise your assessment. You're not a senior, so I'm going to raise your assessment.
understand
So
that.
I need to do it on a fair basis across the board. But as I say, I think the fairest way and the best way to get a reasonable tax rate from the school district or from the county is do a reevaluation, keep us at 100% of value, but obviously be mindful of what we're trying to get done and do it as conservatively as possible. And then we end up with a uniform tax rate pretty much for everybody in the district. We don't end up with huge tax spikes one way or the other that end up hurting our seniors, or hurting everybody, really, senior or not. So, but I'm friendly with all of our other assessors. I know what we're all pretty much planning to do, and we're all pretty much around the same page. So,
We'll see.
well, that's,
Continue,
So-
Bishop.
okay, so the next slide. Joe, this is just it's the same thing, but I broke it out between the town and the village. there's less sales in the village, the number's a little more volatile, but you can see at the end, price per square foot, again, starting at around 2018, there's the values for the village are going up just like they are in the town. And then the next slide is showing the, again, it's the assessed values divided by the selling prices, and it's in the converse, so when you're below 1, your properties are selling for more money as compared to what you're assessed at. And the village is actually even lower than the town right now at the end. So, all right, and then our next slide. Let's see if we can see this one. You gotta flip this one, Joey. Right there, yeah. I think just right-click on it. Right-click on it and. No. Not on my computer, I didn't. I think if you right-click on it, scale, and there should be a, oh, no.
And you can pay for it.
What is that, a PDF?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have the right version of
Letting us
Adobe.
Do that.
We'll turn our heads sideways.
That's right, everybody knows that. All right, well, this is the state's analysis of our 2021 assessment roll. So they basically break it down into, it's not working so well, into 4 categories, A, B, C, and D.
Just zoom out. Joey, zoom out so we can see the whole thing.
So,
Can you zoom out?
yeah.
Yeah, see that.
It's the thought that counts.
Unfortunately, yeah. It's strange it's not letting me do that. So, okay.
Numbers aren't getting any better, Christian.
The numbers look
Either-
worse that way.
Yeah, really? Sorry.
So, well, they break us down into 4 types of properties, A, B, C, and D. A is residential, B is commercial, C is vacant land, and D is utility property. And Joey, if you scan to the other side, this is the state does a CAMA analysis. CAMA stands for Computer Aided Mass Appraisal. And then it says for major type A, you're at about 87% of value. For major type B, you're at about, which is commercial, 96% of value. And your residential property, your land's at 89% of value. And your utility properties are at 100% of value, but the state of New York has a utility valuation division, and they give me all the values for all the utility properties. So I just take what they give me and put it on the roll, so of course, we're at 100% there. So
What's a utility property?
that's poles, wires,
Okay.
cables, gas
Yeah,
lines,
the-
all on the ground. So again, I wouldn't know how to value that, but they have a whole utility department, thankfully, and they're pretty good at it.
Right.
And they have all the inventory, so there's a whole methodology they use to value those properties. So they give me the numbers, I just put them on.
Is the railroad property in there too?
What's that?
Is the railroad property in there too?
Well, railroad's pretty much all exempt in New York State.
Okay.
So there are some railroad ceilings, but not in Wappingers. All our Con Ed or Conrail property is exempt, so. So that's when the state does it using their CAMA analysis. And they came up residentially at 87.63%, which is important, because Joey, the next slide, gonna be the same thing. So, but again, now this is doing it with their sales ratio analysis, and they came up with 87.14%, which is extremely close to the CAM analysis, is what you want. You want those numbers to be as close together as possible. So really, we are extremely close together on those numbers. Some towns are 7, 8, 9 points off from one to the other, which is not necessarily a good thing. This means that we're relatively uniform and things are pretty tight with the way the state runs our numbers.
So does this mean then the residential's 87%, so we're only 13% under assessment on this? And then that's where you have leeway to look at numbers and say,
Right.
maybe take this to 95%, so it's only 6 or 7% increase versus the 22% we saw before?
Correct.
Okay.
So, but normally when you're in the reevaluation program like we are, the state is very willing to work with you and come up with numbers. It's when you drop out of the program that they're not so willing to work with you anymore. So they allow us to come up with conservative, reasonable numbers for properties. But the issue is whether the market is, want to believe this market or not, the market's up dramatically, so even the conservative numbers don't look so good. So that's kind of the problem.
Do we get any credit for having a cap assessor within this equation?
No. They run us together with the town of Fishkill. So when they run the analysis, they run the two towns together as one whole entity.
Okay.
So,
Is that to our advantage?
there's no advantage or disadvantage. So I
just
run
one
each
unit.
town, I run each town myself separately.
Okay.
So I don't mix the two.
So it's
so-
one unit as a
so-
cap assessor. Initially, when we started this program, there was some incentive from the state with respect to parcel credits. That has long expired, I believe.
That expired right after we did it.
Okay.
As soon as the economy went down, that all went away.
That was through credits for doing the reval.
There was credits for doing a revow, and there was credits for staying in the CAP program, but they wiped that out.
Yeah.
Right, so
Very
we
quickly.
had, we
What's
did,
on the books, they just don't fund it.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's no
Right.
money in the account.
right, we did a full reval, was '07, right?
07.
Right, so we went to 100% in 2007, and that was obviously a number of years ago now, right? So are you suggesting that we should be pursuing a full reval again?
Well, that's kind of what we're doing each year. We're reevaluating each year.
Right, so
So-
so the object of the game would be to get closer and closer to the 100% number, not go straight to 100% in 1 year, correct?
So, well, no, I mean, the state wants us to be within their realm of 100%.
Plus or minus what?
It's usually a few percentage points, usually 5, but
Yeah, so that was my
Yeah,
point.
that's
So
right.
if you get to 95%, you're
So-
within that 5%.
but
it's kind of within
95%
their
is hard to
guidance.
shoot for, because if you're shooting for 95 and you miss it by a little bit, they're gonna give you an equalization rate that's you're shooting for that number, but you're not gonna get it. So it's gonna be very punishing when you go to divvy up your taxes with the county and the school district. So
Do you have
we don't
any-
usually shoot for 95, that's a little cutting it too close.
Do you have any influence with data that you can show the state that says, we think you're overstated on your evaluations here? So in other words, I can't see the number here because it's too small, but do you have any opportunity to go back to the state and say, listen, I think you're 5% overstated, and so maybe they take it down by 5%, or you have no influence?
No,
at
we
all?
talk all the time.
Okay.
And we have something called PDC, which is pre-decision collaboration, where we sit and we go over all of our numbers. So.
Because I'm wondering is.
But this is somewhat of a joint effort.
I'm just going to make this up, but just say, for example, they say, you come back and you negotiate and you say, we're 5% less. So now instead of being 13 off, you're 8 off. Now if you're within that, say 8%, maybe you split it halfway, now it's 4%, and maybe the assessments only go up 4% instead of, 8% or 7%. I'm wondering if you have that level of leeway to talk to the state to be able to do that.
If you can prove it, but they're going to want, again, take all the sales, all the data, and show what, and prove to them that the data shows something else than what they're coming up with. But again, we're working on it collaboratively, and they're taking all of my data and running their numbers on it. So
Okay.
I think we're pretty much we're where we're going to be. So, and I think this number is already a conservative number as it is from the state. So,
Christian, with respect to the 95% you said, that's lumped all together. That's residential, commercial, utility all together.
in vacant land, right,
It's not
So we
just
gotta hit
one
the-
category.
right.
Yeah, but I'm
But-
looking at the
but,
biggest one there.
Our
so-
biggest one is,
Right.
we have $5 billion in residential property, so
Right.
that's we have to move that number enough to get the needle going. If you raise vacant land up dramatically, it's not really gonna move the needle, so.
Or if you got something that's 100% val now and you took it down to 95%, the other numbers are too small to really
Make a difference.
to make a difference on
Right,
the residential.
so, but we'll try to get some out of each number and
Yeah.
see what we can do.
Okay.
So, and I have some more stuff from the state, Joey, the next one, this is called the Loeys line, and LOESS. So, and this is provided me by the state. It's for cluster 10, which is Hudson Valley and Sullivan, so it's basically Putnam, Dutchess, Ulster, and Sullivan County. That's our valuation group that they put us in. And this is just obviously just tracking selling price, but the normalized assessments. And time is going to the right, so it's going up. It's showing values increasing based on what's coming in for sales. So, and obviously their confidence lines, the red, the green, and the blue. So, but they're all basically heading in the same direction. So, yeah, I just wanted to show you the board, what I get from the state, and where we think we're going with values. So, the next one, Joey, 9. This is the whole county, so you can see, cap number 1 is us, Fishkill Oppingers. This is the trends. The first number, the 10, is the residential trend. They think our residential properties need to trend up about 10%. The next one is our vacant, commercial properties, it's 4%, and our vacant land about 12%. So and that's obvious, they take that obviously from the market. Now you can see with the whole county here, we're running actually a little bit lower than most of the county, but this is what most of the county who's involved in reval, which almost every town in Dutchess County is doing a reval this year. This is what they need to work with the state. So if you look at like town of Poughkeepsie, they're up 12%. Pine Plains, 14%. Cap 12, which Cap 2, which is Beacon in East Fishkill, residentially, they're up 13%. So they're showing us up the least in pretty much the county, but when we talk about everybody doing a reval, this is what they have to work with to get the rolls close to 100%. So everyone will be making moves to get there. So the issue is if we all move in uniform or pretty close, we're not going to see any huge shifts in taxation, that's the plan. So, all right, Joey, what else you got? 10. All right, this is,
No, and
unfortunately,
that's a little bit more readable.
You can,
So-
yeah, you can.
again, this
can
is
see
how the
Dutchess.
state came up with our 12% for vacant land. They break us up in the Hudson Valley Sullivan, which is the pink, and they say your vacant land's up 12%, and that gives you the whole state there. So they're pretty much showing everybody's pretty much up in land value. Westchester's 11%. I think Long Island was 7. We're at 12. So it's not uncommon for the land values to be going up. So, Joey, the next one is going to be the same thing, but it's not going to be flipped. This is the commercials. Same marketing areas. We're up 4%, according to what the state says. So, I think one of the misnomers with commercials is that all of our rental complexes are in the commercial class, and the rental complexes have been going up in value dramatically. The sales that we've had showing for those are just out of control. So, but also if you look at the rents are going up. Those properties are going up in value. So, and Joey, this is one, just pull it down just a little bit. This is like a reevaluation scenario. I wanted to show, on the right-hand side of the black line is the estimated market value for the property. So in 2021, if a property is worth $300,000, the equalization rate was 100%, so the estimated market value was $300,000. So then I showed if we raise the assessment just 10% each year, the numbers on the right-hand side, the estimated market value is moving. But if you go down to the non-reevaluation scenario, Joey, where we don't reevaluate, but we get equalization rates from the state that are less than 100, the numbers on the right-hand side are still moving. So some people come to me and say, well, why are we doing reval? We don't want our assessment increase. And my answer is, even if your assessment doesn't increase, if the state gives us an equalization rate that's not 100%, your estimated market value is still moving. You just won't see it, because I won't send you a letter every year and telling you what your estimated market value is, because I didn't change your assessment. I only need to send you a letter when I change your assessment. So it's kind of a little bit of smoke and mirrors, but if you'll notice our equalization rate decreasing, the estimated market value is increasing.
Right, but
And then
that's based on the flawed methodology that property, quote-unquote, values are going to continue to increase.
Well, we don't know.
What we do, we know that this isn't going to keep going.
No, nothing goes on forever.
No, and
So-
I would argue in the next 24 months, we're going to see a major problem here. And folks that are buying houses for $500,000 that are worth $300,000 are going to be upside down. We're going to have foreclosures again, just like we did in 2009. We can see this coming from a mile away. Why can't you see it, and why can't the state see it?
And I say it's 18 months.
Well,
That's what we're looking at.
just one point which really hasn't been discussed.
Yep.
Is the valuation date. So the valuation date is a year prior.
It's always the July
It's
1st of the year prior.
July 1st, the year prior.
Right.
So you're not, so, you know, the numbers are in the books already, so you're
The
not.
governments, as you know, Jim, receive the impact about a year after it
Correct.
hits the private properties. We went through this. We lived this.
Right.
And we barely stayed afloat during that time period. And a lot of people lost their homes when this happened, okay? And I'm just having deja vu here, watching people I know, at least 2 people I know, getting into contracts for $500,000+ homes that I know are not going to, number one, can't afford it. Number two, when that house drops down to $350,000, you know what's going to happen. And we're going to have that
Yeah.
same problem that we had previously. We dealt for years with these zombie properties. And again, this is not your fault. I'm just my perspective from being through this previously and just seeing the writing on the wall. I would argue it's even worse right now with the way gasoline is trending and the way home energy prices are increasing in an unprecedented way. You know, and there's a lot of variables there. I get it. Plus the 40% inflation. You know, this is an unsustainable economy. This was an unsustainable economy before all these crazy prices. I sat here and said that senior citizens on fixed incomes can't afford to live in this state, period. Now, we're doing our best here to control our tax rate, which is a fraction of your tax bill. Fraction of your tax bill. And the concern here is the reverberation that's going to occur on a fabricated inflation that is being, right here in this scenario, is being, you know, perpetuated by the state of New York. I mean, the state of New York right now is telling the assessors, you know, these are the scenarios we're going to be facing. And I would argue this is irresponsible to be approaching it like this during an unprecedented, unstable economy. So that's my position. And I know that you have to follow the state of New York, and I've said this from this dais before. If the state of New York thinks it's a good idea, that means we need to think long and hard about it. Because it's generally not a good idea when the state of New York tells us something. Right? But again, he has to
Well,
follow the
history says
state's,
that.
he has laws he has to follow within the state of New York that determine these formulas.
Yeah.
Which
And
is,
if he doesn't, then they come in
right,
and
again,
assert themselves.
I'll say it again. We are an autonomous board here, right? We are, it is illegal for us to sit here and influence the assessor, right? We can't do that. We're hearing his position. That's why he's not opining on everything we're saying, because he's supposed to be an independent party doing assessments, which he does. We're not going to agree with a lot of the things he says. However, again, he has to continue his presentation.
Well, I think the point of the matter is you want to make sure the residents know exactly what's going on, so
Yeah.
that when it comes tax time, that they're not surprised that, hey, all of a sudden you got this huge tax increase. And so I think that's one of the reasons why we're having the discussion
It just
tonight.
annoys me because, you know, there's a lot of young people in this town that are trying to buy a home, that are trying to make this their home in some way, shape, or form. Rent at apartments is, you know, $2,000 a month, right?
Or more.
More.
The prices
Which
are-
is crazy,
More
right?
today.
For someone that is, whether they're single, they're newly married or whatever, and they want to live here in a town and give back and be involved, you know, it's damn near impossible to do that. I could tell you from my fire department standpoint, I'm losing members. They can't even afford to live in this town, and they move out of
Right.
mommy and daddy's house, and they're living somewhere else, and we lose them. I mean, these are people responding to emergencies. So, you know, we're always trying to find a way to keep people here in this town, and the state of New York makes it so damn impossible to do that. And we're trying to, from a town perspective, absorb what we can, right? Do what
Right.
we can, and then sitting here and listening to, you know, numbers that are crazy to me, it's just difficult. But again, I don't want to hold you up anymore on
No,
your
it's-
presentation, but it's difficult. It's
I agree,
frustrating.
but like I said, my numbers are coming out of what the market currently is, or what the
Right.
market was on July
Was
1st.
July 1st.
So,
I guess that's,
you know, where I'm not sure, I'm not seeing, oh, there's 30 sales really low and 100 sales really high. Every sale is really high.
I
So,
believe it.
And it's just,
I see them too.
that is the market, unfortunately. But when
just,
we see cracks in that market, or when the market starts to turn around, you know, I've shown before, you know, that I don't have a problem lowering assessments when it comes time. If the market's not there, and the value's not there, we'll lower the assessments.
Yeah.
But when the market is there, we need to raise the assessments, and as much as we dislike it, this market is really there right now.
so just to the point about sales, which you mentioned, every time a deed is recorded in the Dutchess County Clerk's office, there is a form that is filed that
Right.
indicates the sale price.
Right, you can go on
Right.
parcel access right
Right.
now, and you
Right.
can
And
see
you
your
see it.
neighbor's price, how much
Right.
your neighbor bought their house for. And, I mean, I do it, people buy houses, I say, hey, I wonder how much they paid for that. It's unreal what people are paying right now. And I don't disagree with what you're saying. Yes, people are, I mean, there was a house on Old Hopewell Road that was, I think, $330,000, and I think it sold for close to $500,000. I mean, it's just crazy to me. The methodology that determines these assessments is based on sale prices that are crazy inflated, in my opinion.
Well, they're also almost a year old, too, because if you look back, it's from July of last year, so you're looking back and not looking forward, and that's the other problem that you have, too.
That's
And
why
you
you
can't,
get
you can't
a year
take that
later.
into account when he's doing his analysis, because that's what the state's giving him.
Well, you have to work with a known entity. The issue is
Yep.
I don't know what July 1st, 2022 is going to be like. So you can't do it in forwards, you have to do it in arrears. Because you can analyze what's happened. You
Right.
can't analyze the future, you don't know what's happened yet.
Right.
So,
You would just hope that the state would give you more flexibility. I know they give you some.
well, they give us as much as they can give us, so, but,
The analogy that someone once told me was that you look at it like declaring a dividend on a stock where there's a record date for the stock. So that's, in essence, July 1, the valuation date is like the record date
Right.
for a stock. And you look at the value of the stock.
Well, the value
number
was,
of
right.
shares on that date.
You show me a stock that's increasing at the rate of these home sales, please, let me know.
I want to buy some.
I guess buy real estate, right? If you can afford it.
Hey, Chris.
this slide is just, I took a property on Edge Hill Road, the 20 assessment, the 21 assessment, I figured out the county, town, and school taxes. I didn't do any of the fire or any of the special district taxes, just to show that even though the assessment went up 7%, the taxes went up 3.1%. So if the entities that we live in, like the county and really the school district, can keep their budget in line, even though assessments go up dramatically, you might not necessarily see a dramatic increase in taxes.
We know how that
So-
works.
Yeah,
Okay.
really, if you
They
look
only go one
at
way,
history,
So-
They only go
We
one
know
way.
how
I
that
agree,
works.
I've been battling schools.
We take a great amount of time to look at our tax rate and do the calculations to make sure that we're not riding the flat wave that many of these entities are on the front page. Hey, we kept it flat. Yeah, but your assessment went up, $35,000. We know that game. We
Right.
don't play that game here, but other entities do. And unfortunately, there is a correlation that you can take a look at right now. Every time assessments have continued to go up, many of those lines on your taxes continue to go up. They don't stay flat, they don't go down, because other entities, other taxing entities establish their budget after
Based
they
on-
look at what the assessed valuation is.
Right.
And that's
Right.
not the right way to do it. We reverse engineer it. We're looking at what our expenses are. That's what we're doing. And we've done that across a number of administrations here in this town, and I think that's what sets us apart from other towns. Unfortunately, when people hear assessments are going up, they have a palpitation, because immediately they're assuming that, right? I'm not kidding.
everything's going to go up.
I can tell you, if this town, we're not going to do that, but we're only a very small little piece of the pie. That's the thing.
So this is just a scenario. I was an assessor in Westchester before I got here, in a town that hadn't revaled in 30 or 40 years. So what you end up with is, let's say, we have a commercial property worth assessed at $1 million in 2021, but we don't do any revals for 3 years, and the market continues, and our EQ rate, say, drops to 70%. Now that property would be valued at about $1,425,000. But let's say the owner in 2021 says, hey, my property's probably worth about $950,000. The town says it's worth $1 million, that's okay. I'm okay with that number. But by the time we get to 2024, they think their property's still worth $950,000, but now we're at a value of $1,425,000. So now they come in with their lawyers and their challenges, and they want a reduction. And Joey, if you pull it down a little bit, if we come up with a market value of $950,000, that assessment now becomes $665,000 from $1 million. So this is just one of the points I'm trying to make. Staying in the reval program is beneficial because it keeps our commercial properties from having massive reductions in their assessments and having massive refunds that the town has to pay, and the county and the school as such as well. But we've done very well here with all of our tax challenges. Jim can maybe speak to that, but we've, really when I was in Westchester, we would get hammered with these tax challenges. But up here, after a few years past the revow, we got everything straightened out. We've done very well with our tax challenges. So,
But just as importantly, Christian, we work hard here to try to repurpose these commercial entities and make sure these plazas have tenants in them.
Right.
So that they're not coming to us on a $12 million property saying we're only worth $4 million now because we have an empty plaza. So that's even more important for the long-term sustainability of maintaining rateables, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think we've been proactive with that too, but again, it's an uphill battle when we have a changing society where people are not visiting plazas as they traditionally did before, and we don't have the little Hallmark stores and the little dollar stores popping up in these plazas anymore because people are not choosing to shop like that. So that's why, again, we're looking at expanding the uses on these existing buildings. If we need to make a
Exactly.
change to allow for an urgent care or for a brewery or something like that, we need to keep these buildings occupied because it'll be it will reverberate into the residential tax liability if we don't make sure our commercial base remains stable.
right, we have to attack it from multiple angles.
Yeah,
Zoning and
that's what we're
planning
trying
is
to
a
do.
big one to keep people, we want to
trying.
do this here, the town works with them, then we have rateables. So this one is just an equalization rate chart. I just wanted to show, say, 2022, we didn't do a reval, and the state gave us an equalization rate of 90%. Our estimated full market value would be, $3,150 million. So when they go to levy their school tax rate, they're going to go to East Fishkill and say, well, you're at 100%, and town of Poughkeepsie, you're at 100%, but Wappingers, you're at 90%. So your value goes up. So when we figure out the tax rate for all your municipalities, we're going to figure it out based on your higher value, and we're going to pay more. So it's a way to keep everybody in line by staying at 100%. So, and that's been the mantra since the 2007 reval. So 2020 was the one blip with coronavirus. We pushed that reval off to the next year. But the state let us negotiate a 99% equalization rate, which is pretty favorable. So, but again, we had to make it up the next year, so. So I think that's about all I have for slides. We've talked a lot of questions. I don't know if anybody has any more, so.
If we could I just have a question, and I don't want to, delay this any longer. I know we have a lot on the agenda, but I'm glad that we had time to actually have this conversation, and I hope folks that aren't here will watch this conversation and understand the concern that we have on the board here. And I all due respect to you, I understand your position as well, but if we could just go back to that slide that has the square foot per, dollar amount per square foot for town and dollar amount per square foot for village.
I think that's 2 and 4, Joe.
The one with the numbers on it. Oh,
That's town.
which one is that, the one?
That's the
Further down.
town.
All right, so the town right now is $209 per square foot, you're saying,
On average.
on
I took all the
average?
sales, figured out the square foot of the house, price per square foot, and I came up with the average.
What's the average square footage of a house based on your analysis?
We're probably about 2,000
That's
square
what I was
feet.
thinking, right? So the average house right now in the town is $418,000.
Yeah.
Previously, it was 335, around that.
Right.
So, I mean, we're almost $100,000 up on the average home sale. I would argue the value, and I'll argue the value, might be right now, that's the value based on your analysis, but the true value, I would say, is probably not 418,000. What about on the village, dollar per square foot?
That's number 4, Joe.
Because I know that's less, I think it was like 184 or something like
Right,
that.
184, yes.
So 368, so that's almost $100,000 more too. So, this is what we're dealing with right now. And I understand people are paying, what you're saying here is people are will pay almost $100,000 more for a home right now based
Right.
on this market. And because of that, everyone's assessment should go up to meet the methodology. So I hear what you're saying, I just don't agree with I don't agree that that's the true value. But again, it's not for me to agree. That's the job of
Right, well,
the
I would
assessor.
agree, that we are in an accelerated market right now. The prices are astronomical, but it's not just one property. I can look at it and say, gee, a small portion selling for a large number. That's not the case, it's every property selling for a large number. So we're not, it's not a singular event. It's, you know, I've got 300-400 sales, every one of them are selling for numbers that are just, you know, high. So, and it's been that way for several years now. So, but again, the real estate market's a cycle. You're always, you never know where you are on the cycle. Are you on the top, just about to fall off and start headed down again, or are you nowhere near the top and you got a long way to go? So no one knows the answer to that. That's a crystal ball. No one has got one of those.
I will just say
So-
one more thing. It's hard to make your mortgage payment every month when your Central Hudson bill is $600.
I agree.
So my
Try
fear
800.
is if that doesn't right side, we're going to see issues even sooner. Because this energy crisis that we're facing right now, whether it be electric, whether it be this whole push for no natural gas, which I don't agree with, or whether it be the gasoline and diesel issue, this can be the preamble to a really difficult time in this town. And I just want to make sure that, you know, we're on the record expressing concern about that. That's
Let
all.
alone interest rates are going to be going up, at
And
least
then
3
that's the
times
next
this
thing.
year.
That's the next thing.
Exactly.
Right. Well, traditionally, headwinds for the real estate market are the job market, interest rates, fuel prices. So really, two of those things right now are
Already going up.
are headwinds for the real estate market.
Right.
And
The
let's
job
not
market
forget,
seems to be good, but, you know,
right, the job
I don't
market,
understand this job market.
the job
Most
market
people-
can be great for $15 an hour, when $15 an hour is now the $7 an hour. That's not what people are seeing, okay? It's $15 an hour now, but it costs you twice as much to get everything, so you're really back to $7 an hour. So the point here is the inflation is unprecedented, and we don't know what direction this is going in. It's a time of uncertainty for everyone, and unfortunately, this is a hot topic because it's leading to anxiety for people. I appreciate all your information. If you can please send us the slides, that would
We
be
have them.
helpful.
They're in your mailbox.
For residents that ask questions, I think, you know, it's not easy to explain, but if those pictorials are good, I appreciate that. Thank you.
So, Christian, before you step down, just explain to the residents the process going forward, especially, you know, you said before assessments come out on May the 1st.
May the
There's an
1st.
appeal process. Why don't you just summarize that? for
Right, the
us?
assessments come out on May 1st. Grievance Day is going to be the fourth Tuesday in May, so the roll is open to that point in time. So I hold office hours, you know, I'm here every other day, so I hold office hours when I'm here for people to come in and talk to me. So if they want to bring in all their data, or if they have an appraisal on their property or some reason why they think their property is overvalued, they come and talk to me. It's an informal process where, you know, it used to bring people right in my office and sit at my desk with me, but with coronavirus, that's been a little tough. We might try to do that again this year. But you
Well,
can just,
sit out in the gazebo once the
Yes,
flowers are
well-
planted.
we'll have some nice flowers to look at.
It's also not 20 degrees.
So, but again, like I said,
Snowing.
the process is informal, so you can just come and meet with your assessor informally, discuss your assessment. You know, maybe we can come to some meeting of the minds, maybe we can't. You know, I'll have a lot of data to show them as to how we came up with the assessment, and then we can go from there. And then, if you don't come and see me, or if we can't come to some type of agreement, you can go to the Grievance Board. That's a more formal process where you have to fill out your grievance application, but you also have to back up your claim.
So you got to show comps.
So if your house is assessed for $350 and you think it's worth $310, you need to come in with some comps to say, or an appraisal or something that shows, hey, here's all the comps for my neighborhood, and it should be worth $310 or $315 or whatever you want it to be. So people say it's worth $1. So, I mean, you can do what you want to do. But again, that's a more formal process, because the Grievance Board, you have to prove to them what you think your value is worth. They're reacting to what you're providing them.
So
So,
you have a third process too, where you actually let people email stuff into you and do it that way as well?
people can send me stuff, but that's a lot harder to do when sometimes, you know, I'm only one person, and there's 10,000 properties in town, and I have 30 or 40 people, 50 people I'm seeing a day. It's hard to keep up with the emails.
So the best
So-
processes are, one, either come in grievance day, or number two, make a personal, visit with you, or set
Find
up
out
an
when I'm gonna be in
appointment,
the office
a
and
couple weeks, find
come
out when
in
you're
and
in
see
the
me.
office and do it that way.
Yeah, I don't take appointments because I have too many people coming in.
Are
So we
you-
usually tell them when I'm gonna be there, come in, and we'll get through you as quickly as we possibly can.
Are you agreeable to Zoom meetings or WebExes? Because you could be on at the same time and share information
So,
to
we
the
could,
residents.
so,
That is something you would entertain.
We could try. The issue is time. What do I do with the 10 people waiting to see me when someone
Well, if
wants to call in
somebody's-
for a Zoom?
If somebody's setting
So-
up an appointment with you and you're doing it by Zoom versus them coming in person, it's the same thing.
Right. But what
So
I'm saying
there's
is
no-
normally I tell people, I'll start seeing people at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
And then there's 20 or 30 people there. It's hard to say, okay, well, since you're here waiting in front of me, I have to go deal with this person on a Zoom call because they're calling in now. And you have to wait even longer. So it
It's
doesn't
no
make the people,
different if they came there in person.
it doesn't make the people who are waiting any nicer. So,
Unfortunately, that's,
So-
hey,
so, but again, normally I try to do it face to face with people if possible. That's the
Okay.
way I like to do it.
but some people
So-
can't come face to face.
It is
There's an
possible,
option.
yes.
Okay.
But the majority of
Thank you.
people, I tell them to come see me, and,
Okay.
you know, I'm not the devil. The least I'm gonna say is no. But,
There you go.
you know, we can have a conversation and discuss it, and if we can't have a meeting of the minds, we can't have a meeting of the minds. So, but,
This gentleman had a question. I know this is out of form right now, if the board doesn't mind. Okay, that's even better. Okay, no more questions, thank you.
Well, there's two.
Oh, wait, we gotta let Grace speak,
There are
though.
two.
Grace, you,
You had said that you're going to compare the neighbors. You have that data. What happened on Fields, in our neighborhood of 60 homes, I was assessed at 17%. If you've been in Fieldstone Boulevard, all the homes are basically the same. Maybe I put in Central there and maybe, but they're basically within a couple $1,000. My assessment went up $17,000. My next door attached neighbors went up 5. Someone else went up 8, someone else went up 20. Then I went to you and you said, made a mistake, you're
well, we
wrong.
didn't,
So again, you have that data for the 60 homes on Fieldstone Boulevard. Didn't somebody look and say they all should be 7, about 7, not? So you had a lot of people from Fieldstone Boulevard come to you, which you should have been.
right,
If that's your process.
last year, we did have a lot of people from Fieldstone Boulevard come in because for that neighborhood, the wrong numbers got put on. So people got much larger increases. And then we corrected all those numbers back down to where we wanted to go.
But if
So-
nobody came in and you did something wrong,
Well, I'm the one who put the numbers on, so I did something wrong. But I'm putting 10,000 assessments on, we put, you know,
what's your check and balance?
so,
What's your check and balance?
a lot of times it's the taxpayer to come in and tell me.
yeah, and that's why we encourage everybody to thoroughly
You have to
review their
look.
assessments and talk with them.
Unfortunately, you do. You have to do your due diligence.
So, but
Well, actually, you know what, there's a good point here. And this is something I've wondered, if you're making a change to someone's assessment, is there a requirement for you to notify the person?
if I increase your assessment, yes.
Okay, so if there's any increase, the assessor
We
is
send out a
supposed to
form.
send a letter.
Yeah, they do, but what's the check and balance? Because it was a rounding error. He put a 1 in front of my 7, where everybody else had an 8 or a 9. So I'm saying,
Right, yeah.
what's the, in your numbers are here showing basically we're probably going to get around an 8% raise. I think it should be an 8% increase. So is that kind of what's going to happen? Again, what's your check and balance? In a spreadsheet, you probably should have locked yourself to 1 digit. Somebody typed in a 1 in front of a bunch of.
No, I did it, but I took it out of the wrong column.
So what folks have to do, especially this year, is pay attention to their actual assessment. I think every resident of this town, every homeowner needs to look at their assessment and at least look at it. And if you have a concern, contact the assessor's office immediately, and they will let you know the process to formally, if you need to formally challenge
Right.
it, or have a conversation with the assessor. I think we're in the day and age right now where we have to, every
You have
year,
to.
look at our assessment. I know that years past, we kind of let things ride, but based on what we're seeing right now, not just here in the town, but across this country, we got to keep an eye on the ball at all times, unfortunately.
And please, listen to the residents, look at your assessments,
Yeah.
and don't rely on some of these papers that are being stuck in the mailbox saying,
Yeah.
I'll reduce it 50%, that sort of thing. And you come and talk with Christian, then you
Yes.
can save that cost and get pocket the rest of the benefit.
Right.
So please, don't get fooled. This is particularly for our seniors, and we talk about it all the time. please, if you have any questions, call up Christian, because I know that he has been extremely responsive.
Right, there's a whole industry of people
Yeah.
who try to get.
Yeah, and
people to
we've
sign up
seen
with
them
at
already
Challenger
in the
Assessment.
town.
Really,
They mailed them out.
it's
Mail
not
'em out.
very, it's not really that difficult. to
Just
come
like
talk
the
to
other
me.
one is, we're going to determine whether or not your water is clean, and it's on town water,
Right.
system. So I have to tell everyone, hey, ignore those things.
But you do have to look at your bills.
Right.
You have to do it. Don't depend on
Yeah.
anybody else.
Yeah, okay.
So you
Thanks,
don't-
Chris.
No problem.
Yeah.
So you don't have a program?
Well, you did well.
So you don't have a program anyplace in your Excel spreadsheet, whatever you use, to be able to say, as an example, Fieldstone, it's 8,000 one person, 20,000 for another, and take a look and go, hey, this one kind of stands out, they're all kind of the same type of house or whatever. Can you see something like that as you're going through? Just kind of eyeball
Well,
it.
that was the plan with that neighborhood, but when I took the numbers off my Excel spreadsheets to put on the roll, I took the wrong column. So then we ended up with assessments a lot higher than I was trying to get at.
Okay.
So that was the error that happened there.
But even so,
Then a
if
few
you-
homeowners came in and I said, wait a minute, this isn't what I was trying to do with this neighborhood. And then when we reviewed it, we said, wait, this is a mistake. So we did a mass corrections of error form and we changed all those assessments down to where I wanted them.
so I guess the
not-
question is, did you catch it before they brought it to your attention?
No.
I'm really the only stop. So it does start and stop with me.
So again, is the other
There's only
council?
3 people in the
He
office.
is
I'm the only one who
human.
does valuation, so.
You know.
And we all make
So-
mistakes. I think
Right.
what
Yeah,
the
no, no.
residents have to be aware of, if a mistake is made and it's not caught, then what happens? It gets put into your mortgage and you start having to pay,
Yeah.
a
Right.
higher fee. And that's where it may take
It's a
another
problem.
year, right, Christian,
Right.
to get it
We would have
resolved?
caught that eventually, so.
Yeah, we caught it.
And like I said, when we found it, we admitted it and we fixed it. So, I mean,
Right.
it's,
Agreed.
when
So-
you're doing 10,000 assessments and with a staff of really 2.5, it's a lot, so.
So again, as the council people have already stated, I mean, the best thing to do is make sure you check your own
You have to
assessments.
check.
I mean,
Right.
there's not a whole lot more you can do. Hopefully, there's a system in place, but it sounds like there was a miss on this particular,
You are
this particular
human.
case. But you are human, and
Most people don't think that. So, but yes, I do the best I can do. I made a mistake on that one. It's going to happen here and there,
Okay.
so.
Well, thanks,
But we did
Christian.
the
We
best.
appreciate
So,
it.
No problem.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. Joey, you want to talk about Earth Day, please?
I like talking to Christian.
Thank you, Supervisor, members of the Town Board. Once again, tonight, I'm here to talk about our annual discussion on our town's Earth Day cleanup. Like every year, this is a town-wide initiative launched between my office and the town to basically identify key areas of the town that might need some help in terms of cleaning up garbage along the roadside, in parks, or overall beautifying these parks and facilities that the town owns. This year, we will be looking to have the event on Saturday, April 23rd, starting at 10 a.m., meeting here at Wappinger Town Hall. That's typically what we do. This is our meeting point here. And as always, like every year, we are looking for volunteers. Every member of the community, we've had youngsters as young as 5 years old and seniors up to 80 years old. So this is a great event for everyone in our community. Key locations that we are identifying so far, mostly through to resident feedback and also driving around the town, are Town Hall, actually going hand in hand with our Senior Garden Club that day, so Town Hall Beautification. Our town parks, such as Carnwath and even the Middlebush Cemetery, and some streets that were recommended by residents so far, Smith Crossing, Spook Hill, Cedar Hill, Old Post Road, and River Road North and South. Of course, we are looking for more recommendations, and we'd love to hear feedback from you folks since you represent those wards. Last year, we reached out to several Adopt a Highway organizations and individuals. So those who adopt those streets like Route 9, Route 9D, 82, and also the county routes. And from my position as county legislator and now chairman of the Environment Committee, we will be reaching out to those county DPW Adopt a Highway partners to see if we can get them out there in key areas such as Myers Corners Road. We know every year the garbage somehow blows across from Wappinger Plaza and ends up along Myers Corners Road, so we want to definitely clean that up again this year. This year is also very special. As the town of Wappinger, we received a $1,000 grant from the New York State Urban Forestry Council. That's something that the supervisor and I had worked together on to fund $1,000 worth of trees that could be planted anywhere in this town. We identified core locations in our grant application, such as Wappinger Town Hall, Mart's Field, Schlatthouse Park, and Carnwath. But again, we're open to those to further recommendations there. We received the first $500 of that grant. It's expected that the town would then spend an additional $500 to then recoup the $500, the remainder of the $1,000 from the council. But we fully intend on moving forward with purchasing these trees, particularly with Sunny Gardens. The supervisor and I have a good working relationship with Sean over there, and purchasing some trees. And again, specifically for those locations I mentioned, but if the town board has any recommendations, we'd be happy to run with that. But this is part of a much larger initiative that we're taking on this year to overall identify key areas of improving our environment and ensuring that we have a safe climate here in the town of Wappinger. A stipulation within that grant was to recognize Arbor Day, something that we've really never done before. So the town board, we anticipate having a proclamation come before you folks sometime in April to recognize Earth Day and Arbor Day. And also, as you folks heard at one of the last town board meetings, we have a young Royce C. Ketchum High School student who's preparing a sculpture, and that will be in one of our town parks, again, emphasizing the environment. So these are all different initiatives that are going to be going hand in hand this coming month in April. So tonight, we look for the town board's endorsement on this project yet again, as well as any feedback. We will be having T-shirts to give away again. I know that we will probably be reaching out to our friends at CPL for a sponsorship this year.
Yeah, thanks. They've done that for 2 years running, or 3 years running, I guess.
So the supervisor, I know, will put some pressure there. And, yeah, so if you folks have any questions or recommendations or concerns, we'd be happy to take them. But otherwise, we don't want to spend too much time
And
here.
I think, Joey, as we've discussed, there'll be more activities throughout the year as we look at a variety of things, for the parks and facilities as well.
Maybe we can get some before and after pictures.
Yep.
Put them on the website.
Definitely.
Yeah. that
Did
would
you
be
say-
good.
I was going to say, Grace will hold us
No,
accountable.
I'm really serious. People would love to see that, the improvements.
Did you say you're going to use county DPW for the county roads, or?
Well, county DPW historically does go out with their folks, just like our town highway department goes out. But this year, we're going to be reaching out to those Adopt a
Coordinate.
Highway organizations. So there are a couple different organizations that have Myers Corners Road, so on and so forth. We're also, from my county elected position, we're looking to try to get Creek Road potentially put on as an Adopt a Highway as well, because that is an area of a lot of garbage as well.
So one of the locations he talked about before, Councilman Phillips and I, we were on Myers Corners Road a couple years ago when they had that, and that was a mess, and so.
Still is.
It's another area, yeah, it's still.
Well, I
is.
mean, it was
So,
cleaned up, it's not still, is it? It was cleaned up, but the
Yeah, it was
wind.
cleaned up.
The problem is, just like you said, the wind blows it all out of the parking lot of Hannaford, and now, I happened to take a look over there the other day,
A lot of garbage.
all the
there.
masks now,
Yeah.
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 they all blew over there too, so that, I'll just say this, we have to make sure folks are gloved, wearing gloves,
Yeah,
and, if
definitely.
you're handling anything like that, we gotta use extra precautions, and, again, if we're on the roadways, we need to make sure we have reflective vests on.
Definitely.
We have to use extreme caution. Again, I'll say it again, I say it every year, that tragedy involving that Girl Scout troop years ago, not here, but it was the same type of situation. They were picking up garbage on the side of the road, and I think it was a drunk driver or something actually killed at least one of those individuals. So we have to really use extreme caution, especially with folks now that are driving distracted. Make sure we have spotters, make sure we're using town highway assets to protect our folks that are on the roadways or adjacent to the roadways. We really need to make sure safety is paramount.
All right.
And fortunately, our partners over at the Highway Department with Highway Superintendent Mike Sheehan, we've been able to do that. So we have vests, we'll have our pickup sticks, we'll have cones, and we'll have personnel to make sure that
Yeah.
this is a very safe and enjoyable event.
Especially with the volume of traffic that has increased, and this is on a Saturday,
Yes, yes.
so,
Does not help with the increased traffic in town.
I can't see it up there, but is there an email address or a phone number to reach if they want to volunteer, people want to volunteer?
Yes, so it's.
Yes.
I can't see it, it's too small for
can't
me.
Yeah,
see
I
either.
apologize.
Yeah.
Yes, you can reach out to my office or the town supervisor's office.
Okay.
The supervisor's number is posted there, or my email. We will have this on the town website.
But do that
And
within the
social
next
media.
week or two,
Yes.
so
Yeah,
we can get
good.
the volunteers lined up.
Yes.
Yeah, so we had an idea, so that if there's more streets we want to do, we can, we'll have the volunteers.
And
Yeah.
we've had great participation in the
Yes, we've
past.
been very fortunate.
You know, I see a few in here, like Robin, thank you to Robin, and, you know, for that in the past
And what
as
about the
well.
Boy Scouts? So we got the Boy Scouts when we did the cemetery off of Robinson
Yeah.
Lane, are you going to include them as well?
We reach out to everyone. I
Okay.
hope that the pack based out of the Houstonville Fire Station will come again. But no, we reach out to all of those organizations. And actually, before we even have a chance to, they reach out to us. So we have a
Great.
great working relationship with both Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts.
maybe the schools too. Have it
We
posted in
we
the
also reached
schools.
out to Interact, so they get involved.
Rotary
and
Interact.
Rotary Club, they actually have a section of Route 9
Yeah.
that they adopt. They went out last year. We had a great relationship with them last year, and I hope to continue that again this year.
Yeah,
So,
good.
Okay, thanks,
all right,
Joey.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Joey.
Thank you, guys.
Steve, you want to talk about Rockingham, please?
So, last meeting, I introduced the idea of doing some improvements at Rockingham Park. I did get some hard numbers for you. Last one came in this morning, and the total comes to $16,000, well, just under $17,000. That would be the shed, the electric installed in the shed, and an aerator in the pond, and in the shed, we would build a wall inside it to divide it into two sections, one for our use and one for the soccer league to use. So that's where we're at. That would include a gravel as well, that I would need to build a level base for the shed to sit on. The conduit work for the electric and the aerator. If you were to approve a maximum of $20,000 on this, that would cover any oversights on my part or any changes that we might make.
Now, does that include working with Central Hudson in order?
Excuse me?
Does that include working with Central Hudson to make sure that light on the telephone pole?
That's a separate issue. That's their light, not ours.
Okay, so do we need that in order to make this viable to be able to use the aerator? Or is that separate? So you're doing a separate electric box, so you don't need Central?
Right, it's a separate circuit,
All right,
probably off the same line, but it's gonna be metered to us rather. That's a flat rate, monthly rate on that light. That's one of those area lights.
okay.
And it's entirely separate from this.
I just want to make sure if we do all this stuff that we're going to be able to use the aerator.
I'm not around at night. I can't tell you whether that light functions or not, but I can, if it's not functioning, I can make a phone call.
Yeah,
get them
it
out
doesn't
there.
really function that late.
Well,
It blinks
yeah,
on
if
and
you
off
make
and
it, or
it's-
I can make it to
Yeah.
Carrie, our liaison.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's just-
like I said, I don't know whether or not it's working because, we're out of here before dark. But that's where we're at. I certainly wouldn't, spend anything that isn't needed, and that way I wouldn't have to come back.
When is, Al, when is the pond going to be remediated?
So they're going to start work probably mid to end of April. So they're going to start and they'll do it for 6 months after that, so. it'd be
So we
nice to
should have it ready so that the aerator can go in once they're done that remediation.
So how long, I think you put something on here that says how long it's going to take.
Yeah,
The shed is like a
the
60
shed is, everything hinges on the shed, and that's they told me 6 to 8 week delivery
Okay,
period.
so May.
Once it's ordered. I can get the other stuff, on hand in the meantime. I would expect that the aerator would come fairly quickly, and we could store it at the barn until we need to do it, and get things rolling.
Well, I certainly think it's worthwhile to do it and perhaps have a resolution
Yeah, so I was just going to
tonight,
suggest that.
and, I would say that since we have the bond issue out of which we, designated, bond issue for parks, instead of hitting the trust fund, right? That we use, it's a small amount, right? So that would be easier to take it out of those bond proceeds, since we already agreed, to use them for some other funding, for Spook Hill, right? So,
That's fine. So if we need a resolution, I make a
I'd say we
resolution that we approve $20,000 for the improvement for Rockingham Park based on the number of items Steve has talked about, meeting the shed, the aerator, item 4, both the electric and a storage unit, to be taken out of the bond we approved last year as part of the overall $750,000 bond we approved last year.
I'll second it.
okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Steve, get to it.
Very good, I'll get the shed ordered tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Why don't you, stay up there, and talk about the town parking lot, and Tim also, I think, is,
Steve, just one question, how big is the shed?
10 by 20.
pose a problem, Jim?
No, 10 by 20 is a type 2 action, I just have to look to see whether or not there's any issues with respect to the aerator.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Do you have anything for the town parking
I
lot?
wanted to call an audible relative to Spook Hill Park.
Okay,
Randy
go ahead.
was gonna be here. We met with the Wayne Wax representative that they wanna do a memorial there.
Right.
And there were 3 dead ash trees, Joe, I don't know if I sent you an email. But
Yeah,
there's 3
we're
dead
aware of
ash
them.
trees by the handball wall.
Right.
And, we didn't know the policy, but I think is it okay for them to cut down those?
Well, Steve was going to go do that, or have Baisley, or somebody.
Actually, there
come.
was somebody else we were looking at doing
Yeah,
it,
they
right?
had
Who came
their
in?
own,
Yeah, but we're gonna have to pay them. More.
$1,500,
oh, I
right?
didn't,
Yeah.
okay, so that wasn't.
Yeah, that was what was part of the issue.
All right.
Yeah. But, I mean, I leave that to Steve as to what
Well,
can be done.
I'm a little confused on how this was, the details of how this is supposed to be worked out. I'm hearing conflicting stories back and forth. I think this is something we should probably set aside to the next meeting so I can work those details out on who's paying for what. Everything I've gotten has been third hand, and I'm reluctant to comment on that, being under those circumstances.
Okay.
Because the discussion was they were gonna donate the logger to come in and cut down the trees. There was a
And I
question-
haven't confirmed that.
There
Yeah,
was a
like-
question about the stumps, but the issue why it's pressing is generally by the end of this month, April 1st, we have the
Bat
the
issue.
bats to contend with, so the intent was to get the trees down. but-
Well,
And I
if there's a
can drop them.
donation there, then that's fine. I was under the understanding, just as a few days
Yeah.
ago, we were going to get charged for it. I
Yeah,
mean,
no, there was
originally,
a-
there was a landscaping company within the town that was going to donate. That's been sold, and, so it all changed.
I was under the same impression as Tim when I was actually in a meeting with Tim, and they said they were gonna, somebody else was gonna pay for it. It was gonna cost $1,500, so.
Okay. Well, then let's,
But it wasn't
let
town.
Steve finalize,
Steve,
because,
go find out.
yeah. Or
And
Tim,
then
you
let
can
us
help
know.
him.
A conditional agreement that if it was truly a donation and at no cost to the town, there'd be no exception to taking the.
Well, assuming Steve's the buildings and grounds guy, he needs to approve it and sign
The trees
off.
need to come down.
Because,
Yep.
yes,
Well,
we
then
know that,
Right.
three
The
of
answer
them.
would be yes, if that's the case.
Right.
Yeah.
We just wanted to formalize
Yeah.
the yes.
So if indeed someone is donating the funds to take these down privately, then you have no opposition to moving forward.
No issue at all.
No,
No.
none at all.
I will look into that and
Right.
make sure that those are the circumstances.
Thank you.
The parking lot, I'm not sure, I've had a couple conversations with Tim, and, we do know that the parking lot is in poor condition, but I'm not sure whether we're supposed to be looking at repairs or renovation.
Well, as I mentioned to you, it would be renovation. It has to be
Right,
redone.
okay.
So that back portion of it, right?
Well,
We need to, and then it was to your opinion, Mike's, Tim's to, let us know doesn't need to be extended further, because the back portion clearly needs to be done.
Well,
It's
yes, the
buckling,
back portion
and
is
it's-
in poor condition,
Right.
but at the same time, we had talked about a complete redesign and traffic flow,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
that's,
that's kind of what this was.
Right.
And-
Yeah.
And it was all just putting things in perspective, widening the entrance, making it a kind
Right.
of circular.
But I think it's a matter of, again, funding, right?
Right.
And timing, and if it can be done, as I said to each of you, in phases, then we can look at that. If it's counterproductive to do it, then that's another story, right? But I think, the priority is before, winter, we have to get it done, that back, portion of it. It's just dangerous at this point in time. So I think that's the priority, if we're able to do more, but I think it's a matter of, the cost and
Right.
getting the resources, getting, the contractor, whoever to do it. I would love to see the whole thing and the redesign of the flow, widening the entrance area, putting parking in front of, Town Hall. Those would all be great add-ons. But I want to make sure
I'll
that the
have some
back
solid
portion
answers
gets
for you at the
done.
next
Yeah.
meeting, then
Okay.
Please.
I'll meet with Tim and
Yeah.
we'll talk about what we can do just in the interim.
Right. Because, again, certainly asphalt prices are going to go
Right.
up. We want to get that in, and I know that what you, and I think Mike also was meeting with the contractor as far as what could be done, but.
Well, that was out at Robinson.
Oh, no,
Yes, I wanted to ask you about that next, so.
But
I wanna
as to
finish up this
here,
one.
Right.
I suspect that we're going to have to
Well,
take
yeah,
it
the
down
same-
to the
the same
base,
conditions
right?
would
Same-
apply here,
Yes,
sure.
same conditions apply, so.
Right.
Do we
Right.
go out to bid, like whoever supplies the asphalt or all
Well,
that stuff, or
yeah,
no?
Mike, the highway department puts the materials out to bid,
Okay.
and we get a contracted price then on the asphalt. And then they have a contracted price with the paving companies to do the actual
So it
paving
all
work.
goes out
So
to-
it's already been approved.
Yeah, so
as,
Tilcon looks like
under
they're the
contract
company,
pricing.
the asphalt company, and then Clove would be the ones that would do the.
Yeah.
And I think this ties into the next discussion for the paving, right? So you were talking about Robinson Lane.
Right.
So I think you had some estimates for that as well, and that's also Clove and I'm assuming Tilcon as well.
Right, let me grab these, I got my papers backwards. I had been asked to look at actually renovating the driveway out at Robinson
Right,
Lane.
yeah.
And we did it in two sections. The driveway itself is in very poor condition. I think that the pavement there is probably about 25 years old at this point. And this winter made a very bad frost heave on the whole thing. So the first section one would be the driveway from Robinson Lane to, are you able to pull up a picture of the park? Yeah. It would be from there back to Holt Field where that intersection is to go to the
To the right towards
Challenger
Challenger.
Field. It would be everything in between those 2 points. It would include the area in front of the concession stand and between the restrooms and their storage building, which are also in poor repair and have some divots in them that are ankle twisters. So that came in at a total of $98,730. And then what we did as an option was to pick up that driveway that goes between, I'm not sure of the first number, but past the T1 field to the east side of the property. And then there is a gravel parking area that is used for Holt Field.
Right.
Right, that's
Oh,
it
that's it.
there. That's never been paved, and to do that section came in at, with the prep work included, came in at $55,470. So I didn't total the two numbers, but it's in the area of
Roughly
150,
160,000.
155,000 total. If you wanted to do both portions of it. And this is somewhat time sensitive. The asphalt numbers that I got are only good until April 21st.
So for 155,000, what do we get do we get from Robinson Lane to where?
Back to that intersect, where that blue dot is, from Robinson Lane to that blue dot.
Including the side street there?
No, it does not include the
No, not
side
that one.
street, just that's where the paving stops.
Well, the
And then-
55 includes the
But it
one
does
to the
include
back.
the area,
Yes.
the entire area in front of the concession stand, that large parking
Does-
area.
Does it take you to Challenger Field?
No, that section is not.
Pretty good
That
shape.
section's good shape?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
in good
'cause
shape back there.
and
I just want to make sure
Challenger
because
parking
of
area
the,
was
you know,
it was
having the
recently
youth
paved.
and so forth, have a safe ground to walk on.
Right.
Get it in.
Right.
Okay, but that's okay, I haven't looked at
Yeah,
that.
no, that's in really good
Even after
shape.
the flood?
Even after the flood, it still
Okay.
looks good.
Okay, good.
So really, the first section's what I think he's talking about is in the roughest shape, which is
Yeah,
roughly
I agree with you on that.
Plus,
$900,000.
the parking lot behind Holt there. I mean, it's a dust bowl back there.
So Jim, you know, with respect to funding, what would be the source or sources that we can use?
You could use Parkland Trust.
There you go.
You could use B Fund.
B fund?
I think
Fund
B
balance
funds,
or even-
I think B fund balance.
If you can use B fund on this, that's
Yeah.
what to use.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I agree.
And I'm still unclear on where we're going. We're going from Robinson Lane to the concession stand, to that intersection right there.
Correct.
Okay? Now, what about the side that goes to Holt Field? That includes the gravel? The gravel?
Right, come back a little ways on the arrow. Where you want? About where the pavement ends, if you could show them about where the pavement ends. It's right about where that dugout is, this, come back. Right there, right there.
All right.
That's about where the pavement ends currently.
Right?
Okay.
So the other gray area that you're seeing in the photo is currently gravel. And that
Okay.
would become
Black
pavement.
Okay, so that includes paving all the way to that lot right there?
Right, and that parking area there that you see,
Okay.
That's the 55.
that's the
right?
55,
Okay.
yeah,
So $155,000 to do that.
everything.
They're gonna put speed bumps in?
Yes, that includes 3 speed bumps.
Oh, nice.
Well, I move that we do this.
Second.
Let me just restate. I move that we pave the area that was just detailed using B fund balance up to $160,000.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed.
That's got to
We
get
got
done.
it, let's get on it.
Get on it.
Okay,
I'm
Jim?
I'm not certain on whether we can
Jim,
lock in that
I have
asphalt price,
Sandy
but I'll do the
coming
best
in
we can.
tomorrow.
We'll try.
So that I can go
Will you
over
let
these
us
with
know?
her, and then she can
Let
get
us
it
know
going,
if
so
you
we
can
don't
lock
have
that
things
in,
dropping.
please.
We just need,
Yeah.
some contracts or whatever.
Yeah,
from-
but I'll review the, minutes of the
Yep.
meeting, so we can get those all done. in time.
Steve, now I know, they were talking to Thale because Tilcon was having issues with keeping open like they do for the past 30 years. So I would check with their pricing because they just opened today.
Okay. Yeah, Mike has the contract pricing
Yeah.
for it.
And he used Thale last year
Yeah,
because
I think that's where it's coming
Tilcon's been
from, I'm not
unreliable.
positive.
They open and close, open and
Yeah.
close, so.
And that's based on the existing width of the roadway, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
And
So
is this a milling situation or a
Yeah.
pave over?
There's gonna be some portions of it that get milled, and then
Yeah.
the rest.
Can we
the
use some of that
remainder-
million elsewhere, where you were talking about that, or
I'll
gravel?
certainly have them stockpiled.
So a lot of that, Bill, if you go from the opening entrance from Robinson Lane up to basically where the store is, most of that will
Right.
have to be milled, because
Yeah.
that's in really, really rough shape.
All right,
Okay,
I think we're doing the right thing
Yeah.
here. This needs to get done, and it hasn't been done. It's been
Right.
piecemealed for 25
Right.
years.
exactly.
My only concern, and I don't know if we have any, if we have any ability to control this, I mean, obviously, water is going to run where water is going to run, okay? How this paving affects where the water is going to run and settle, I don't think we know, but I think we're going to make an effort to try to keep everything status quo out there, correct?
Yeah, what they'll do is put a crown on it so that it flows to the sides.
Okay.
Steve,
And
makes-
that particular area is all bank run and drains pretty well. It's the
Yeah.
area in the back
in
that
the
is
back,
lower
right.
that gives us the problems.
Okay.
And make sure if you think we need some sleeve or some, a pipe underneath for drainage in the back, because of the flooding that occurs and so forth, that you look at it.
I don't think there's gonna be much you can do
Yeah,
about
okay.
that.
I was
Unless-
just making
yeah,
sure that it
yeah.
drains, if anything can be added to help drain faster, then
Right,
now's the time to
right,
do it,
yeah.
rather than creating a dike, against it.
You
What
know,
was-
if you have any knowledge of where pools a good screed operator on the machine will pitch it
Oh, yeah.
properly, so it'll run good.
Yeah, that section of the roadway has never been a problem other than, you
Right.
know, it's old, you know, it's between 20 and 30 years old.
It's just been added on and added
Right,
on.
it's been
I remember,
patched.
I
Has been
mean,
patched, I got a big patch
it's-
there
Okay.
now today, it's just.
so, that said, and I may have missed this, what was your timeline on this project?
Tomorrow?
Well, the price on the asphalt is solid until April 21st.
Right,
So I need to find out whether, you know, if we can lock that price in because
Right.
we're ready to move forward, or whether it's gonna change regardless after that period, so.
what's the
you know,
availability on the contractor?
I'll find that out.
Okay, all right, because I think
Make the
it's fair
phone
to say
calls.
that, I don't know if it's realistic to do it before opening day, but I
No,
think
no.
it's, you know, at least we can, maybe they can be, you know, announce that it's gonna be done.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, because folks are gonna need to know that if
Right.
it starts after.
Correct.
Opening day, and at least they understand that we have a commitment to that roadway.
Yep. Okay,
Ralph Holt Way, by the way.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Just one other comment. Want to thank you for getting the partial dugout repair ready on the block on R4. Looks really good, and hopefully it'll get the roof put on there again by April 9th.
Supposed
So
to
thank you.
begin actually this week,
Okay.
he's gonna be doing that this
Yeah,
week.
but look, I saw, I was out there the other day, so it looks good.
Yep.
So thank you.
And we've
And-
got the other ones partially dismantled, and I'm hoping to get that done either this week. We should have it done by opening day.
R3,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And then Clay, just, I know we're all kind of going off topic here, but as long as we're Robinson Lane,
As long as the weather holds, he expects to be in there next week with the clay.
perfect. Okay,
Should be
Thank
good.
you.
Very good.
thank you.
Okay,
We're-
thanks,
we're-
Steve.
We're doing the best we can to get it
No,
done.
no,
Yeah.
you are doing good.
The other thing real fast on Robinson Lane, which I just remembered right now, was, remember, I think I mentioned this at a town board meeting, Peter Brent had expressed interest in helping to replace the Holt Field sign. I believe that's in disrepair, the Holt Field sign, right?
Okay.
The original Holt Field sign, as a private citizen. So, obviously, it's slipped my mind until we had this conversation, so I'll reach out, touch base with the gentleman, and find out what the best way to proceed is. We're gonna have to talk to legal to find out how to do that, because that particular sign, I don't know if it's owned by the town, or if it's owned by the league, or whatnot, but we're gonna have to navigate that. And, you know, in honor of Brian Holt, he wanted to replace that sign, because I believe he had him as a student. So that's yet something else I wanted to make
Good.
sure that we're aware as an improvement out there.
Well, the other thing, if you're going to improve the signs, is you're going on Robinson Lane where it says recreation sign, you can barely see that sign as you're going.
Oh, the
onto
road
Robinson
sign.
Lane.
Yeah, yeah.
The road sign.
Yeah, we should definitely reconsider that, because that was put there probably 30 years ago just as a warning that there was an entrance there.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
thank you, Joe.
Joey's been designing those signs that are, you know, consistent in color
Right.
and everything like that. I think,
Now, that sign should probably be
It's gotta be a-
consistent with the manual on uniform traffic
okay,
control devices.
I'm sure Jim can assist with
Okay.
that. Yeah, it was put there, I believe, because when cars are pulling out, you know, it serves as a
Right.
warning, so it's gotta be consistent with that. But at the same time, it needs to be functional. It can't just be a town seal that says, I think it says just park or something, it doesn't even say the name.
Just has a street number.
Yeah, so, and the street number for that parcel really doesn't, it's irrelevant at this point because it received a street name. So, instead of it being whatever it was, 95 Robinson Lane or whatever it was,
Right,
I think
exactly.
it's actually Ralph Holt Way in the,
Well, somebody should look, make sure the GPS recognizes one versus the other.
well, and more importantly, when you call 911, it should reflect, yeah, it's 95.
Yeah.
It should reflect Ralph Holt Way. I'll check with the 911 center to make sure that,
Okay.
That's
Let's check
correct.
into that before, you know, Joey, you know, before finalizing the sign, we'll take that into consideration.
yeah, because if that's the
Okay.
case, then we don't need a 95 on it.
Right.
If you want to put the person you just spoke of, put him in contact with me, then,
Well, let's talk this week. We'll
sure.
get it worked out.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Thank you very
One
much.
last thing, so it was just brought to our attention here. We've tried to get conduit out there, wiring for phone service out there. Before we start digging everything up, if we're gonna dig stuff up,
The roadway.
or if somebody's gonna dig stuff up, can we get them to dig a ditch so we can run the conduit there by any chance? I mean, if we're gonna dig it up, I don't wanna dig it up
Conduit's
twice.
there. We've located an empty conduit. We just need Cablevision to call us and get that rolling.
Okay.
And we're not, there shouldn't be any deep excavation going on. The only, be minimal, a few inches
Okay.
of disturbance is all that they're gonna be doing.
So, yeah, if that's something else we can get out there, that'd be great.
Yeah, let's do
Because
that.
there is
But
no real
that-
service out there for
No, I
cells.
know.
and-
I worked with
Got the
KMO
challenge.
last year, and we traced an empty
Oh, you
conduit out
did?
to the
Great.
pole. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, two of the items under discussion are actually resolutions, so we'll pass over, and I'll ask the folks from Lightstar Solar to come on up. I know you've been waiting patiently, so thank you for listening to this for the last 2 hours, but appreciate it. So come on up, introduce yourselves and what you would like the board to, consider.
Well, first and foremost, Supervisor, Town Board, thanks for having us. We appreciate the opportunity to come down and talk about agrivoltaics and, how that might be applicable to Wappinger Falls. Joey, you want the next slide? In the interest of time, we'll try to move through this pretty quickly. But the agenda is going to look like I'll introduce Ian and myself and kind of the rest of the team that works on agrivoltaics at Lightstar, define what agrivoltaics is, talk a bit about what the research says right now, what the history of agrivoltaics is, and how could agrivoltaics work in Wappinger. My name's Sam Bailey. I'm a project development manager at Lightstar Renewables. Lightstar Renewables is a community solar developer, dual-use developer that operates in the Northeast and a few other pockets across the country. This is Ian Ward. Hi there. Good to see you all. I am an agricultural planner, liaison with farmers and developers. I'm looking at land first, farmer second, and solar third. Technical service provider with the Natural Resources Conservation Service as well. Other folks on our team that aren't here that we work closely with, Lucy Bullock-Seeger, she's our policy expert that works with state legislators and local groups, different stakeholders to make this happen, to push forward the agenda of agrivoltaics across the country. John Capella is a local land use attorney that we work with, and Brian Komanek is a dual-use agrivoltaic farmer himself, a consultant that we work with, that's helping put together best practices for how to do agrivoltaics. Lightstar really became very agrivoltaic-centric, really interested in dual use in the last couple years when we realized that there was a disconnect between the goal of getting more renewables on the grid and the goal of preserving farmland. And how can we make these two things not be mutually exclusive? And ultimately the answer lies in agrivoltaics, that these two things can actually exist in harmony and exist in harmony quite well. So we work with all of the leading agencies, thought leaders, associations, organizations, institutions, Cornell University, Rutgers University, American Farmland Trust, Coalition for Community Solar Access, to figure out what agrivoltaics is going to look like in this part of the country, and to tap into all the stakeholders, town board members, local communities, farmers, and figure out what everyone's input is to be able to put that into an established plan. First and foremost, and Ian kind of just alluded to this, it's all about the farmer, and then it's all about the land, and then it's about the solar. But how can we bring a community solar project and a farming project at the same time? It's really quite achievable. So agrivoltaics across the U.S. Next slide, please.
All right. So if I said Old MacDonald had a...
Farm.
Yes, exactly. That's what this is about. Agrivoltaics is just a fancy way of saying putting solar over cropland. That's it. People, like I see people thinking, what is that word? It's dual use. It's taking a farm, saying we're going to grow this crop. We're going to allow the tractors to fit down the rows by raising the panels up a little higher, spreading them out a little bit wider, and looking at designing what the farmer has typically produced, or maybe enhancing what they've done, looking at building the soil, perhaps rebuilding the soil, reducing petroleum-based products. All those things are enabled because of the dual-use aspect of these panels, because of the stipend that can be paid to farmers, in addition to the revenue that is generated from the land lease. So from a perspective of next slide. Crop research, these pictures worth 1,000 words. These are pictures of projects that are happening across the country now. Colorado, University of Colorado is doing some studies. Colorado State University, University of Arizona, University of Massachusetts just received a $2 million Department of Energy grant to study projects that we're working on throughout Massachusetts. And American Farmland Trust is a liaison in that regard as well. So you got a lot of non-government organizations that are looking at this, and government organizations, the National Renewable Energy Lab. And hardiness zones come up. You know, what's the temperature? Will this work here? And what this slide is showing you that it will. Hardiness zones, which basically, you know, what's the temperature, what's the growing degree days farmers use to determine what crops can be planted and when they can be harvested, is applicable here as it is in other places. Different ways to harvest. This is a tractor going, just to give you some perspective of tractors and decent sized equipment working underneath, and crops that are being grown today at Jack's Slurry Garden.
So how could agrivoltaics work in Town of Wappinger? You know, ultimately, this is about bringing these two inherently beneficial uses to the town on the same parcel of land. How can we bring a community solar project that's going to provide clean energy and electricity bill savings to local customers, and take that same parcel and work with a really good set of farmers like the Thompsons,
Right.
who are going to grow fruits and vegetables in and around the array and sell those vegetables and fruit at local markets. So that's exactly what the plan would be.
Right.
And first and foremost, it's about working with the farmer to define what is feasible. So the parcel that we're talking about here is 189 Myers Corners Road. And Thompsons have been farming here for a number of years. Traditionally have farmed hay here for cow feed. But the Thompsons are experienced farmers, are innovators. They farmed everything from hay to tomatoes, and everything in between. And so we've started working on putting together a farm plan with the Thompsons, defining what's going to be compatible with this particular parcel, with these soil conditions. And right now, the working farm plan is doing 6 acres of vegetables, possibly tomatoes or squash, 2 acres of blueberries, and 2 acres of strawberries. And, 5 years from now, that might look different. And then 10 years from now, that might look different. Farmers have to be reactive to what's going on in the environment, and they have to be reactive to what's going on in the market. What can you make a buck off? But this is a good place to start. So why this particular site? When you're trying to put together this type of project, you've got a lot of unique characteristics that all need to align. And at 189 Myers Corners Road, you've got all of these very specific characteristics lining up. You've got access to the grid. We've gone through a Caesar study in Central Hudson. We know that the interconnection is viable. The land itself is viable. We're not coming into contact with any sensitive environmental features like wetlands. And the land is very project renderings here to give you guys a sense of what this might look like. We'll go to the next slide. Here we get a pretty good view. So these rows, the posts themselves are spaced out 32 feet. The top of the post, what's called a torque tube, because these are single axis trackers. They run north-south and they track the sun east to west. We're about 8 feet off the ground. The clear sky, when these are perfectly parallel to the ground, there's about 17 feet of open sky between the panels. And ultimately, we can override the controls of the single axis tracker to optimize for when we're planting, when we're harvesting, when certain equipment needs to go in a certain place, we can move the panel to get the panel out of the way. Next slide, please. This is just another image here. As you can see, we're planting right up to the post. Because these trackers move, they're going to get sunlight at different times of the day. And a lot of the research that's being done right now is suggesting that this type of planting plan is totally viable. And this is something that's relatively new to the U.S., but it's not new in other parts of the world. Japan's been doing this
For 30 years.
Yeah, exactly.
120 different crops.
No, I know, I've very experienced with that.
And Europe has built a bit of a history here as well. Another view here. Also, this is not an indication of what we would do in terms of a screening plan or anything like that, but really just to show you guys what it looks like to have crops.
You have to get close to the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
can't hear you.
Do you want to jump to the next slide, please? Just another view here. Next slide, please. So presently, as defined in the town's code, if we simply called this a solar project, and this parcel is in the R40 zone, this type of project would not be a permitted use. So we've worked with our land use attorney to define different pathways forward that, working in concert with the town, we would hope to identify a best pathway forward, getting the perspective of the constituents, of the board members, et cetera. If you go to the next slide. The next slide simply shows the location of the parcel on the town zoning map.
Go back one.
Not to
It's a
worry.
parcel just past Lairdale, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
But would invite you guys to ask any questions that you may have. We're certainly curious to get your guys' perspective.
I think it's a great forward-thinking project. I'm glad you've got a great partner, a local farm that's willing to do this. I'd be interested to see what we have to do from a zoning change to make it happen. And I'm sure by what Councilman Beal said before about the price of electricity, maybe you can get a small array for his backyard. I'm sure you'd love that.
So how do you guys, Tom, how do you guys benefit? What do you see as the benefits to you and the farm?
If you come on up.
Come on up, so the gets on the line. Because, our interest has been trying to preserve a number of the farms in our community. So that's, as I mentioned to you before, that's certainly my interest. So how do you see this helping you guys?
First off, my name's Sean Thompson. I own
Yeah.
the property.
Right.
We typically grow hay over there for
Right.
the cattle. We outsourced hay to do something else with that property because what we eat typically is horrible for us. What you buy, even organic food, is not non-pesticide. We'll be able to control all those things and give people food that's actually good for them and doesn't have all the bad stuff. The solar panels on top of them protect them. So it allows sunlight to get to the plant while protecting them from heavy rains, hails, anything that can damage anything. The fence around it prevents any animals from eating any of the crops or crop loss. The 40% crop loss that we would have is
Right.
gone. So we're gonna have 90 to 100% crop. We've already talked to a bunch of different places that would be interested in purchasing everything. So local markets, like Hannaford, and then some local schools, small schools. So I think it's the best option. And before this, I wasn't for solar because of the space it takes up. But with the ability to farm underneath it, it's perfect.
No, I mean, I certainly, as I said, I've seen it in Japan. I've spent a lot of time in Japan, and they've been able to very successfully, address the issues and grow some very sustainable crops, including strawberries, as you mentioned.
Yep.
Do you have enough water there? Are the wells, what's going to happen in that? Have you looked into that?
Wells will be put in.
Hmm?
Wells will be put in, but
Okay.
there is access to water there.
Okay.
What was the other thing? The only thing that I don't know, I had a question about to you guys, was the entrance in to property.
Barbara, do you
Would have
know
to
anything
change.
about that from previous experience? Not with this type of arrangement, but entrance, yeah.
Okay. Right now, my entrance is through Central Hudson, right away through Central Hudson's lot. That'll no longer work. Okay.
Certainly something that we're accustomed to working with the
So what does your lawyer recommend as to the zoning or other approvals? What does the town board have to consider if you've gotten that far already?
Yeah, so,
Come on closer to the mic.
He had a list of 4 options.
No, I know. Yeah, I just wanted to hear him talk to it because
if you wanna
us older people can't see those slides clearly. So
pop that
talk about
back
it.
to the second to last.
What slides?
Yep, right here. So, the first one that we listed here, the parcel abuts 2 other zones. On the west side of the property is the commercial office park zone, and north of the property is the R80 zone. In both of those zones, if I'm not mistaken, this type of project, well, if it was simply defined as a solar farm would be a permitted use in those zones. So, yeah, as you can see here, to the west, commercial office park, to the north, the R80. If you go back to the previous.
R80 is Cranberry.
Yeah.
So one potential pathway would be to rezone or extend the zoning overlay from R80 to the 189 Myers Corners Road parcel.
It's the easiest lift.
That's probably the easiest lift.
So you're R40 right now?
Yep.
Yes.
Joey, could you go back to the map?
So the R40 does not allow this, but the R80 does?
Correct.
And this is considered a solar farm, is that, Barbara, per definition? It's a solar farm. Is there an agricultural overlay or exemption on this property? No? They're from a tax perspective, but not from a zoning perspective? Okay. So the easiest thing to do is to extend the R80, correct, Jim?
Yeah, I just pulled up parcel access. Parcel access doesn't have it listed in Ag District 22, but that's not all. That's not always the best. So, yeah.
And there's a Central Hudson substation right there, correct?
That's
Yes.
correct.
So that's the positive aspect here. You can feed the grid right from that.
That's correct.
Maybe, or maybe bureau.
So let me ask you this question. So this is definitely something I've never seen. I think it's, innovative, obviously. So, I always have to think about what the cons would be on this. So visual view shed, right? What are we looking at from Myers Corners Road? Are people going to be looking for a buffer? Is there a setback? How do you guys usually handle this if, how do you do that?
Yeah, certainly, and then I can talk about it from my perspective.
Sure,
So we were talking about doing the first couple of rows of flowers,
right.
tall sunflowers and
Oh, okay.
stuff that for floors
Yeah, yeah.
and provide floors.
So tall flowers, yeah.
Exactly. Something that the public would like to see.
Right.
Something that would bring a lot of color into the area.
Sure.
And then do everything else step back from there.
Yeah, I mean, let me just say this, I support this type of thinking outside the box, if you will. I mean, I think that we need to explore options that we haven't explored before. But on the other hand, I also have to look at what are people going to call me and complain about, right? Right? So, right? You know, you guys are putting up 8 foot.
No, don't
you know.
worry, that's not your ward, it's over here.
Yeah, well, it doesn't always work that way. You know.
I get the calls,
So-
and then he'll get the calls.
The greater good obviously is there, but understand that folks will have concerns about the view shed from the roadway at 45 miles per hour.
Yeah.
As crazy as that may
What I'd
sound.
like to say to that is, keep your eyes on the road.
Well, they're not gonna like
That's
that.
very easy to say, and
But I like this idea of buffering with some, plantings to make it a natural buffer. I like that idea. I have no objection to an ingress egress that obviously needs to occur as long as it's done, consistent with DPW standards. You're adjacent to Meadowbrook, I believe, on the east side, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, on the east side. You have that property, that triangle across the street.
Yes.
I always wondered who owned that.
No, he did.
Because that was like our Plan B for Community Day. We actually used it one year, many years ago. So now we know who you are, so we're not just gonna put the rides there.
We actually thought about that, because there were so many cars.
Yeah, parking.
And it's like, we should park them down.
Yeah, we'll have a
But
conversation
yeah,
at a
we could
later
talk
time.
about that. and
But back to this, that said, you're not looking at that property, you're looking at the property on the other side of Myers Corners Road. And that goes back pretty far. I know it's not all cleared.
I'm not using the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna farm beyond the panels.
And then these track, or these move these panels?
Yes.
They do, yep.
Okay.
They're on a single axis tracker, and they track from east to west.
Do you ever have any issues with reflection, hitting a residence down yonder, inadvertently?
Well, typically we'll do a glint glare analysis.
Okay.
But these solar panels are inherently absorbing.
Okay.
I mean, they're
That's the
designed.
It's
point,
not
right.
reflective,
Yeah,
the
they're
way you
designed to
think.
absorb
Yeah,
as
that's
much
not.
light
Well,
as
back in the,
Yeah, back
version,
in the day,
version
it-
1.0,
Yeah,
way back, we used to have folks put a solar panel in and next thing you know, the neighbor's, siding is melting, But these are the new generation, panels, that, obviously are not designed to reflect. So that's just a thought that I had also. I don't have any questions at this point further, but I know my colleagues may.
what's the lifespan of these panels?
The lifespan of them, it's really about 40 years. When we look at a project, we expect a project to be in the ground for a minimum of 25 years. But in all likelihood, a project of this nature would be in the ground for 35 years, 40 years.
So the lifespan is about 25 to 40 years on these panels to be replaced?
Well, at a certain point in time, we'll have to ask ourselves a question, has the technology gotten that much better
Right.
that it makes sense to pull these panels out and put
So you're
new,
willing to do
higher
that?
efficiency panels on,
You're willing to upgrade as technology moves along?
if the economics pencil.
I'm sorry?
If the economics pencil. But we don't make that assumption up front. We make the assumption that for a minimum of 25 years, this exact system will be in the ground.
I'm just thinking along the lines of, remember, maybe you don't remember, a few years ago, the size of cell phones were this big a few years ago, and now they're this big.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you will change as technology changes, that's all.
Well,
Upgrade.
these panels have, to your point, have made leaps and bounds since, Gen 1.
Right,
And what was a panel that was 50 watts is now 600 watts. and is bifacial, so it's not just collecting sun
Right.
from above, but is also catching the reflection that's coming off the
Right.
ground.
So my point is, you will upgrade as the technology becomes better? Or is it just based on economic?
Well, it's
I
also
mean,
based
I
on
can't-
cost to them too. I mean, they've got to turn a profit too, so.
I can't, yeah, and I can't look into the future and say.
I'm
you know,
just
what-
saying, as technology increases and gets better, you're willing to upgrade, that's all.
If it makes sense, absolutely.
Okay. And where are your other projects?
We've got projects all over the Northeast.
Okay, can you send us a list?
Others than Hudson Valley?
I personally am working on a project in dual use specific or simply ground mounted solar.
Just send us a couple places that you have.
No, I'm
David
interested
said
in
that.
agricultural,
Yeah.
program, but yeah, send us the slides and then, as the councilwoman asked, some reference areas,
That you
could-
have established this and
Right.
how it works, because it'd be interesting to see the
Yeah.
feedback from the residents that live in those areas.
One of the things we've seen is the location of the inverter and like offset and enough with like the EMF like kind of projecting out.
Mhm.
So I imagine have you done any sort of concept plan on a layout?
We have, right now, the plan is to put the inverter, we're not looking at the parcel, but, is to put the inverter,
He's going through
the,
I'm getting dizzy.
it. He's trying to find.
And while he's looking, just another thing that
yeah,
comes
there we
up.
go.
There you go.
Yeah, so we would run if you see the tree line on the east side of the property, just to the left of where the cursor is now, the preliminary plan would be to put the access road up, either to put the access road up that tree line, and about 200 yards in there is where the inverter would go.
Because that was another thing we discussed on other projects was this access road needs to be fire apparatus
Right.
rated.
Totally.
You're gonna have a gated perimeter, so
Right.
it's like 24/7. Somebody has to be able to get in there and respond, so
Well, I
there's,
guess that's a question.
there's little,
Do you have a graded perimeter with plumbing
We
operation?
do this with our hydroelectric sites, and the firefighters just
yeah, like a key or whatever to
Yeah, we
get
put a
in.
knockbox on, at the gate. The gates are typically 20, 25 feet wide. The access road, minimum of 20 feet wide and up to grade, as it relates to putting, a fire truck on it.
I do have to ask you, what do you do off-season when you can't grow anything in November, December?
Cover cropping.
I'm sorry?
Cover cropping.
Okay.
Now, did you,
The goal, as we discussed from a agricultural perspective, the goal is to try to rebuild the soil
Mm-hmm.
to reduce the amount of petroleum inputs, and that would be basically constant green cover. So as soon as
I'm
that
just
crop-
wondering if the ground is frozen, what could possibly be grown? I'm sorry?
You're not growing much.
That's what I didn't think.
But leading up to it, for, like, my former fields, whether or not I planted, rye or winter rye or what have you, that will grow actually, except when the ground freezes 2 feet deep, it's still growing. And so then it bursts up in spring before you would be putting in tomatoes or anything else. And then you cut it down. And then you can use it, sell it off, for food, actually. The grains can be used.
now, did you see you're going to have a buffer there between your project? Just trying to see how much of a buffer you're going to have.
Yeah, so
And-
as you can see, there's kind of a natural buffer already, but we would work with the town's landscape architect, work with various town boards to define, and also at public hearings, get input from local neighbors. Where do we need to fill in? We'll put together a landscaping plan.
So you'd put like evergreens or something in there?
Yeah, we'll put a mix of conifers and deciduous, a natural mix with local species, to make it look natural.
Correct. It's not
No,
gonna be that.
no.
And where, that's where it needs to be more of a screening versus what John was saying, something that's actually agricultural, right? If we can put in
Right,
something
yeah.
else that is producing.
So it would be
revenue.
that close to the road?
It could be.
Now there's setbacks,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
ideally you have
That's-
screening, and then it's like, you know, say you're gonna have
Yeah, I
arborvitae or
mean,
whatever, that's gonna cast a shadow, so you're gonna have to move, I mean, this is
Right.
always the puzzle.
It's
So,
a-
so
it's
the
a
code
moving
currently
thing.
provides where ground-mounted solar energy system is located within 100 feet of an adjacent property in a residential district or a street, it shall be screened by existing vegetation or topography or through the use of architectural features, earth berms, landscaping, or other screening, which will harmonize with the character of the property and surrounding area. So it would be a 100-foot buffer from the road, and with, you know, some kind of landscaping in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these photos, I think, are trying to show us what the product looks like. That's why it's on the
Right.
screen.
Yeah, because I was
It
gonna
is.
say they're awful
Yeah.
close to the road, and it's,
And then one other question regarding height. Currently, our code says that the height of the solar collector and any mount shall not exceed 15 feet above the ground. Is that an issue or no?
That is not an issue. So at full tilt, it's 14 feet and like 8 inches, I think.
So these things are basically tracking the sun? Is that what's
Correct.
happening? That's
One reason why
interesting.
there's not the glare, like,
Yeah.
trackers we use out at the airport.
Yeah, no, it's interesting technology. I mean, let me ask the real question here for, you know, first of all, I like the word agrivoltaic, is that it? Right?
Yep.
Looks like it
I'll
used to
be able
be,
to say
looks
it.
like it used to be agro-photovoltaic, but they shortened it
that's
a little
a
bit.
different thing.
Dropped the photo.
So how much, you know, put this in terms of how many houses can be powered, but, you know, how do we, in plain English, you know, tell our residents, well, this particular solar farm can, you know, produce this much power? You know, how do we put it into that type of term?
Yeah, so this project is slated to be a little over 3 megawatts DC. With the yield that we assume on this will be 300, 350 homes.
Wow, okay.
Year long,
Year one.
year
Yeah.
long,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So the
Consistently
total
through the-
annual production
right.
would service about 300 to 350 homes,
Okay.
total annual production.
Okay.
Wow,
Thank
that
you.
is
Sorry,
incredible.
total annual load.
Okay, that's the type of terminology, you know, we need for residents when they watch this, because this, you know, more people watch this cable channel than I ever thought. And, you know, I can't get through a shopping trip at Hannaford without
Nope,
somebody asking
I
me
agree.
about this. So somebody's gonna say, well, how many houses, you know? They don't do that. Usually they're yelling about something, but
Just
that's,
picture
that's
for the-
fine, it's okay.
His picture for the dartboard at home.
Yeah, and he ain't lying. But the point is, I do believe that there is a place in this town for these types of solar farms. We have one off of 9D that is totally invisible. It sits back so far you can't see it, but it is there. From the fire department perspective, there is a concern about inverters and capacitors, which I know that you guys are well aware of, the amount of power that is stored and the hazards that exist. And I can already tell you'd be able to work with the emergency services on access and how to handle those types of things. So that's always one concern that comes up, because it's new technology. There's a lot of energy being stored. You're adjacent to the Central Hudson substation, which I think is important, right? I'm sure that that's part of your, you know, advantages in this project. It's right there. For us as a town, Central Hudson has an access road onto that substation right there. You know, perhaps there's an opportunity for an access road off of a existing Lairdall driveway already, which could be key. For the farmers, you know, having an access onto Myers Corners Road in an appropriate location is obviously gonna be key. But again, Farmer Dan's running back and forth all the time onto his field, so I don't really see it being a challenge if you guys have to have an access point there too, as long as DPW's good with it. So, you know, the big thing I think people are gonna have concerns about is the view shed. And based on what's already in our code, I don't see any reason why we can't further explore this and
No.
take it to the next
No, I think we definitely should
steps,
explore it
you know?
and see, you know, because you know, from what I've seen around the world, this, if done right, can really be quite successful and accomplish a number of things, including we can get agricultural, plants into this area, you know, and can preserve this area including Meadowbrook, and,
Yeah.
then, and put conservation easements on some of the other properties, then,
Right.
then this can preserve that whole area from development.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, if it's done right. So of course, we're
Yeah,
gonna have
we
a
have
little
to
bit
do
of
it right.
reservation on the first
Right.
job here, because we gotta make sure we're approaching
Right.
it appropriately. We also have to be concerned about how we approach this as a town, because, if we make amendments to zoning and things like that to facilitate this, we need to be aware that we could be setting a precedent moving forward for other properties. So we gotta kind of think this through to make sure that, okay, the easiest way to do this is extend the boundaries of R80, or is the easiest way to extend the boundaries of COP, right? We have to look at that from all angles to make sure that we're not inadvertently creating an issue on the other side of town where somebody wants to do something that they consider the same, but it's not, right? So I think we can give this the due diligence, discuss it, and I personally don't necessarily see a major objection from me on this.
Have you done anything with the government as far as government land goes? Vacant government land, like Stony Kill Farm and stuff like that?
I
I'm
mean,
sorry?
there's certainly plenty of solar projects that have gone on government land.
But you guys
We have not partnered
Okay.
with
Or
state or
colleges or
federal.
anything like that? Okay, college land?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
To Councilman Beal's point, when we looked at the solar farm law, when it was initially adopted, one of the things that, one of the reasons why R80 was looked at, much of the farmland in the town is in the R80 district, or 5. Or 5A? 3A. So the larger farm parcels in the town, the law was crafted to permit solar farms in those primarily to benefit, farm uses, to give them a stream of income to maintain the farm, which in Dutchess County is a very large proportion of the solar projects that have come in, and also, frankly, in the Hudson Valley, also across the river in Ulster and Orange. We had looked at that. One of the other challenges, though, is the farms in the eastern part of town didn't have the Central Hudson distributed resources to be able to connect into the grid.
Right.
So this is one of the few areas in the town where you have both enough land and the connection to the Central Hudson grid.
Which the one on 9B is adjacent to
Same
the
thing.
Central Hudson
Same
Power
thing,
Station
yeah.
as well, so.
Exactly.
I think this is good that we're exploring these.
So what I suggest we do, and also in interest of time, because we have a lot to get through, is, you all, work, with Barbara, have your attorney work with Jim, then put together kind of your proposal to the board, so we'll review it one more time, and then that night, that meeting, if things look fine, then we can schedule it for a public hearing, right, moving forward, but I think you have to,
So
work things with the lawyers and with Barbara.
Assuming we, and again, I think it's certainly doable, and, if we're gonna change it to an R80, what it would be is a petition, which is just simply
Understood.
a letter to the town board asking that this property be rezoned into the R80 district.
But I'd like to, what I'm
Yeah.
saying is I'd like to hear one more presentation,
Sure.
which
Certainly.
final, answers some of our questions, puts together, the proposal, before I actually get the petition, okay?
Yes.
They could present a petition that night based on our
Send us
discussion
the
if we don't kick them
information.
out of the room,
Right.
but I think
Yeah.
it's, I just want to move it along, but
Yeah,
I want to make sure that we get the full hearing, and our residents and anybody that might have a concern do that as well.
That
Okay.
process makes a lot of sense.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, folks,
Thanks so much for
yeah,
having us.
yeah. I, would like to have a brief break, for a few minutes before we go into the resolutions, okay?
I'll move a 5-minute recess.
Okay, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all right.
Just watch the
I just turned up the heat. Oh,
I always,
I just turned
I always tell clients, the last thing you want to hear is, this is an interesting case.
Oh, yeah, no. Well, none of that tonight either, Jim, right?
Yeah.
We don't need the history of this.
Yeah, Joe, we need a motion to come back out of our recess.
Make the motion.
Okay, do I have a motion to come out of our
I'll
recess?
make a motion to come out of recess.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays, abstentions, seeing none, motion passed. Okay, the first item is, Al, why don't you introduce it while I'm handing out, this is the revised.
Oh, okay, sure.
So, well, I'll do it.
So resolution 202264 is revised. This is the resolution establishing receiver taxes and assessments as head of Water and Sewer Department. We have reviewed this with the town board members. We've all had an opportunity to take a look at the revised duties of the individual. And with that, there's a salary increase of $3,000 per year, prorated at 42 weeks, so it's $2,423.08. Again, it does, what it does is it includes not only the current duties of the receiver of taxes, but it also includes new ones, which includes duties like helping out, looking at the water and sewer rates, reporting, regular reports to the town board on water and sewer issues, making recommendations on rates, establishing procedures for assignment of personnel and maintenance, et cetera. Number of other things here that, again, that's been reviewed with this individual. Anyway, I make a motion that we go ahead and approve it. Again, the individual has approved this. Board members have an opportunity to take a look at this. So again, I make a motion that we approve this.
Yeah, motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions, seeing the motion passed, thank you. Okay, the next item is resolution 2022-67. It's a resolution establishing a standard workday for elected and appointed officials. Jim, why don't you just summarize the law behind this?
So this is a resolution which establishes, in essence, what the hours of the hours of a workday for elected and appointed officials that don't punch a clock. It's a somewhat complicated methodology, but in essence, it's based on a 3-month average of the record of activities of that person, and it's for people who participate in the retirement system, and it's a requirement that the retirement system has.
So just to be clear on this one, this is hours or is this days?
Well, so the standard work day in the resolution is how many hours are in the workday, and then based on the record of activities, there's a number there that is, a decimal, and that is the number of days per month.
Okay, so this is a days per month calculation.
That's the ROA results on the right?
The ROA result is, if you take the record of activities divided by the standard workday, that gives you the...
Whether it be 6, 7, or 8 hours per workday, that's what this calculation represents.
So the ROA calculation is the number of workdays that were
Workdays per
accumulated by
month.
that person in the month based on the
Okay.
standard workday established by the board. Here, the town clerk and the justices have a 7-hour workday. The council members have a 6-hour workday because that's the lowest it can go. And the highway superintendent has an 8-hour workday.
Okay.
Jim, how do I get the RS 2417? Are you going to provide that?
I don't have I'll send you it, but there's information that I don't have regarding personnel, very personal information, social security numbers, that type of stuff. I don't have that.
I don't have that either, so I have to file this according to the resolution.
Right, so, all right, so I'll get it over to personnel and have them get that info. I didn't, that's the reason why I didn't have it. I didn't file it.
Personnel's me for now.
We'll send it down.
I can't file this until I get it.
Right.
But we can still approve the resolution. You just can't,
yeah.
you just can't file it, Joe, with the
We'll make
state?
sure we get the proper forms for you, Joe. Okay.
I have the form, I just, don't-
Okay.
like I said, I'm missing
Okay.
social security numbers and
Okay.
retirement system numbers.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. The next item is Resolution 2022-68. This is a resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement between the town of Wappinger and the Wappingers Challenger League. It's actually kind of an oversight. It should have been with the Little League, agreement last time. Jessica, you want to just briefly summarize based on what we've done in the past?
So this is an addendum to the Little League agreement for the separate amount of money that has been allocated for the Challenger League. And that's really it.
And the agreement's basically in the same format as the Little League agreement.
Correct.
Yeah, this is just an addendum
Yeah,
to.
addendum,
It's
right.
It's just an addendum,
So-
because it's the same, it's actually the
Correct.
same
Corporation.
organization,
Yeah.
the Wappinger Challenger
We
League.
just had omitted them.
Yeah, so this, and
Inadvertently,
this,
so.
what the amendment, what the addendum does is, it allocates a fixed $3,000 payment for the Challenger League, separate and apart from the other.
Specifically
Yes.
for them.
And I've reviewed it as well, and it's all fine.
All right, I'll move it.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Next item is Resolution 2022-69, resolution authorizing water tenancy agreement for 341 All Angels Hill Road. It's too bad that the meeting took longer because the Sharifs were here, were very interested in having this passed. They've been wanting water for a while, didn't want to wait until we deal with whatever we have to deal with the district. I strongly support it. Jim, you want to just summarize?
So this is the standard tenancy agreement that we've done recently with respect to properties that have a water main in the vicinity of the property here. This property is on All Angels Hill Road. There's several other properties that are in the area that the board should be in the future looking to extend the water district to as a whole to fill a hole in coverage. At the time, the Meadowwood Loop was done. One of the property owners had conveyed an easement, which is at the back of this property. And at that time, the Meadowwood Loop was installed. There were connections for all of the properties, including the Sharif's property along Old Angel Hills Road, that were put in the main. So it's just really a function of connecting from the tap to the property.
But they have serious problems with respect to
Yep.
their water supply right now, and that I consider an emergency type of situation. And
Yep.
since we still have some gaps to close with respect to the other properties, I strongly recommend we approve this right now. Move.
Second.
Okay, motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Sorry, trying to move this along, so we still have a lot of things.
On
Next-
the next resolution, could we table this? I have some discussions later on.
Sure, I have no problem with tabling it. Do we have
I'll
a motion?
second it. I'll
Motion and
second
second. All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next item concerns appointing a recreation system, but before we do, I'd just like to read this into the record, and this is concerning, Dot Gark, who has submitted her retirement notice, and in appreciation of all her service, and, Jessica put this together. We'll have Joey, Jessica put something more formal together. She's, still recovering from some illness, so I think at a later point in time, we'll do a couple things to show our appreciation, to her. But let me read this, and then we can have some other, discussion on this, on the resolution. But whereas Dorothy Gark has submitted her retirement notice to the town of Wappinger, and whereas her retirement became effective March 25th, 2022, and whereas Dorothy has performed the duties of the senior center assistant with great dedication and caring, and I emphasize that. Now, therefore, be it resolved as follows. The recitations above set forth are incorporated in this resolution as if fully set forth and adopted herein, and some other legal stuff. And the town board acknowledges and regretfully accepts the notice of retirement of Dorothy as the senior center assistant. The town board fully acknowledges that Dot has served as the senior center assistant and in her previous roles in the town of Wappinger's clerk office, right, Joe? She's been there, and the building department with great distinction and dedication, and the board wishes her many years of happiness in retirement and commends her for her devoted years of service. The town board requests the town supervisor to send a letter formally acknowledging Dot's resignation and notice of retirement in her many years of distinguished service to the town.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jessica, thank you.
Yes, you'll take that. So I'll.
Is that going to be a resolution?
Yeah, I was going to say have a resolution.
Yeah, I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. And we'll do this up nicely, and I'll have a letter as well to go with it. Okay, Joey? We'll do
Thank you,
that.
and, just, I think we should take a moment, just personally, each member here, just have an opportunity to thank Dot. She may be watching on TV or online since she's unable to be here, but certainly, we do appreciate all your service to our town, your one-on-one compassion and treatment towards our seniors in your capacity in the senior center has been greatly appreciated. I have not had much of an opportunity to be here during the senior center days, but I've heard nothing but positive things from Dot's professionalism here in the town hall. She will be greatly missed. Thank you, Dot, for your service.
You're one in a million, and you will be missed. God bless you and enjoy life.
Yeah. Chris?
Dot, thank you so much for your long service, and you did a wonderful job at the senior center, and we're going to be missing you greatly.
Yeah?
Yes, thank you, Dot, for your service. I'm actually a member of the senior committee there myself. So actually, I filled out paperwork.
Clearly.
I'm actually on the roster. So again, I want to thank you for all your years of service. Was it 30-plus years that she had in? So that's a great commitment to the town, and we thank you for everything that you've done for not only the residents, but for the town board. So again, thank you. I wish you well. I wish you health. And we're looking forward to having a final party for you, a retirement party.
Maybe a couple.
Hopefully that'll be very soon. But get well soon, and thank you again for everything you've done.
Yeah, I think there's 2 of them we have planned. And Dot, thank you. And you're always welcome. We hope you come back from time to time and be a regular member of the senior group, right? So actually we probably can waive whatever fees there are for her as an emeritus, position. So, yeah.
Totally.
Thank you. Thanks, Dot. Okay, moving on. Again, we want to recognize that she's leaving a big hole, but we're hoping that in this next resolution, Resolution 2022-70, or the resolution appointing a member to the, 71, resolution appointing recreation assistant, that hole can be at least partially filled. Jessica, would you like to talk to the board about that?
Yes, so the first would be to fill in the effective date, which would be April 1st. And we are also at this time going to withdraw number 6 on there and handle that at a future meeting, which involves the budget transfer. And other than that,
So why don't you just, I think everybody knows Donna, but what is she already working on? Because she's really hit the ground. Well, there's 2 things.
Yes.
There's that, and then I want to come back to Steve. So go ahead with it. Talk about what she's doing already.
so Donna has an enormous amount of enthusiasm and just interest in this position, and she has been keeping a mental note of some great ideas for the senior center for quite some time. So she's already hit the ground running in terms of starting to prepare the senior center for her transition over there, and I'm not going to spoil anything for anybody because she wants to surprise the seniors with some of them, but I've seen her ideas. She's going to do a fantastic job. She really is.
Yeah, I agree.
So-
Excellent. We look forward to that.
Yeah, we really do look forward to it. So anybody have any other questions or comments?
No, the only comment I want to make before, I'm sorry. Were you gonna go?
I was just going to mention if she could make sure that the comptroller's office takes over her
So we were on the
other
same
duties.
page.
Yeah, we're on the same page.
We're on the same
and-
page. We want to make sure there's a transition with Steve's stuff that she currently does. And she transitions into that to Frederick's area, and not drop the ball on that, because again, that's a big hole for Steve.
Yeah.
So-
And I've already had the preliminary discussion. I'm having weekly meetings with Frederick, and so we'll be talking more about this, to make sure. But I think in the meantime, if there are any issues in transition, Donna will be, certainly more than willing to to work, with making sure that nothing
Okay.
falls through the cracks, but I think
Yes.
Jessica will help on that as well.
Oh, yeah.
Or we'll give it to Jessica to do.
Yeah. Bill?
I'll
Anything?
move this.
I'll second it.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions?
Let
Seeing the
me
motion
just say
passes.
one thing. Donna obviously has been a true team player. I'm sure we all can agree. She has worked well beyond the parameters of her previous title.
Absolutely.
Now, I believe that she's going to be in a position that is even more appropriate for the work that she's been doing.
Yeah.
So that said, I'm excited that she's able to make this transition into this new role, although she's been doing much of this previously. Now, receiving the respect and the title appropriate to the work that she's doing will be codified in this appointment.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Her creativity is just fantastic.
Yeah.
Good. Can't say anything better
And
than
and
that.
actually, she's continued to work on the crafts fair. She has the
Yeah.
Pet Palooza, a number of things that are going to be coming online, still outside of the senior, center activities. So
Yes.
we're happy to have her staying with us in the town rather than
I'm looking
herself.
forward to her joining the new team.
Yep.
Actually, it's part of the old team.
Absolutely. Yep. The next few resolutions, actually 4 or 5 resolutions, relate to unused
Jim,
escrow
what's the
and
Was there a-
security.
Joe, was there a vote on the resolution?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, as a result of really a lot of hard work of Judith and, Barbara supervising that, we've been in the process of really catching up, cleaning up a lot of the escrows to make sure that everything is current. And so that's what really these next resolutions reflect, as well as security posted. Barbara, would you like to say anything else? And just speak to them, each one of them, and then we'll just go ad seriatim.
The first one is on Osborne Square.
Right.
That was an escrow that we took to make sure that the applicant finished his refuse containers according to the site plan, so he put up a bond, a restoration bond. It was finished years ago, so we're just going to
Thank
finally
you.
give that back to him.
Right.
The other 4 are 4 applications before the planning board. They've either been withdrawn, as in colon hydrotherapy, and the others are finished with map signed, so it's time to return their money.
I'm afraid to ask.
No, please don't.
Colon hydrotherapy.
Let's
Yeah,
go
right.
through
Moving
these.
on.
Let's move on.
Okay.
Yes.
Please.
Let's move
Okay.
on.
Okay, so what we'll do then, based on the clerk, is we'll just kind of consolidate them all, so it's resolutions, 2022, but it's 72, 73, 74, 75, and 76. Do I have a motion for
Make
those?
a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, did I miss one, Bill? No. Okay, motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions?
At least we didn't have to say the title of each one.
I know, that's why I want to avoid it, avoid that. Thank you, Joe, for bailing us out.
Thank you, Barbara.
Okay, the last resolution that I have, unless there's something else, Jim, no comment, is Resolution 2022-77. That's the acknowledgement of the correspondence log.
Move.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Any items for special consideration, new business, before we go in executive session?
I just got one quick one. So I want to work with our Director of Strategic Planning and our attorney on developing a Knox box law for the town of Wappingshire, which is a key box for emergency entry for commercial establishments that have automatic fire alarms. I was in a precarious situation last week with an automatic fire alarm at a commercial establishment that we couldn't get into the gate and we couldn't get into the building, and we had radiating heat lamps on for 24 hours that could have been a major problem. We waited for the key holder, but in retrospect, that could have been a real problem. So I want to be proactive here in a business-friendly manner and come up with some legislation that requires any of these commercial establishments that are not open 24/7 that have automatic fire alarms. It doesn't cost that much money to put a key box on there for the fire department access, because we can't be taking chances like that, especially in a building that contained some hazardous materials. So that said, I'll work on that offline, bring that back to the board. We'll discuss it before we move it so that everybody has an opportunity to understand it fully. Thank you.
Thank you.
I actually have two.
Go ahead.
So the first one is, and I think County Legislator Cavassini, I think Dick, you also mentioned this, sign replacement on Route 376 down by Myers Corners. I mean, that's been knocked down. I'm starting to get calls from residents that it needs to be replaced. So not sure what we need to do, whether that's got to be a resolution, but again, that's one sign that needs to be replaced.
Just so on that note, I took the lead from Steve Frazier on that. I'm going to be reaching out to the vendor this week, get an updated quote. I'll email the board as soon as we hear that, and then we can do that the next time.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
And the second thing is, we just need to be cognizant of is that, as we talked about paving over Robinson Lane, we received from Mike Sheehan a number of roads that need to be paved. Again, we've got time is of the essence because of when prices are going to go up.
Right.
So no later than the meeting on April 11th, we need to make sure that we approve it. We have money left over from a bonding perspective. I checked with Frederick, about 1.6 million left over. Cost here is about 1.5. So again, just need to make sure that we take a look at the roads, we all agree, and we come ready to hopefully approve this thing on the 11th so we can get moving on this. That's
Thank
all
you.
I have.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else?
We also have a workshop
Yeah,
this
good.
Saturday,
Thank
which is going to be a 2-hour meeting.
10 o'clock.
Which will be appropriately timed so we can get to the topics we want to. But, you know, obviously it's open to the public. It's going to be here. I'm hoping that we can have more of a roundtable
Right,
approach. We can sit
exactly.
around the table,
We will.
roll our sleeves up. And that's 10 a.m. on Saturday with hopefully a 12 noon hard stop, hopefully.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Agreed. Okay, anything else?
John
Anything?
Bodendorf from my office
Yeah.
will be here that day.
Yeah.
I'll be at Penn State.
Yes,
Oh, so
son.
the other two reminders you want to make sure is
Enjoy.
that you have the Easter egg hunt on the 9th.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's probably already out there, but
Right.
the Easter egg hunt. And then hopefully Little League opening day is April 9th as well.
April
So
9th
both
as
on the
well.
same day as
And-
the
and,
expectation.
we have, pardon me? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, and so we'll continue to have outreach, for
Monitor those just to make sure the
Yeah.
days
And
are
let's
still
hope
firm.
Mother Nature
I know,
helps us
yeah.
here.
Yeah, because the Easter
It's
Bunny
been too
doesn't like to
cold.
get wet.
And there is also one other one. I believe soccer's opening day is April 2nd.
Okay.
Joey,
So-
if Joey can just put together, it's getting crazy right now with dates. If you can shoot us an email with it, like you
That would
normally
be
do.
Well,
really
we have
good.
7 events in April,
Yeah.
actually.
Right, so, because
Including them.
That would be
talking about it
good.
right now is one thing. If you send us an
Right.
email, we can make sure we have it in our calendars.
Calendar.
So I'd like to have a motion to go into executive session to discuss litigation settlement and a possible acquisition.
I'll move it.
Second?
Okay, motion second, all in favor? Aye. And I'd like to invite Joey to come in to talk about with me on this acquisition thing.
Sure.
Okay? Thank you, everyone, thank you. Marcy, thank you.
Penn State, you had to throw that in.